stopping occasionally to wait for her. She seemed to feel the bird's affection for her and couldn't help but laugh. She put away the children's book, handed C2U's book back to the bird, and cast a small spell again. Unexpectedly, the bird flapped its wings and flew toward the villa. Jiang Qianxia was stunned. It was still early, and C2U definitely couldn't be home yet. Could it be that the bird is too small, and the tracking spell has limitations? Anyway, her method worked. She decided to share the spell with Xianqin. If someone in the Xian sect was already doing this, it wouldn't matter. If not, perhaps it could be of some help to the sect. The little bird saw Jiang Qianxia moving slowly and began chirping to urge her. Jiang Qianxia watched the little bird fly toward the villa but did not retract the small spell, as its effect would fade after a while anyway. After all, the little bird had helped her, so going to the villa was a good opportunity to reward the little fellow. As soon as she returned, the maids hurried over to greet her warmly, but they didn't expect her first words after taking off her coat to be, "Is there anything in the house to feed a bird?" A bird? The maids were all stunned and were about to say something when they suddenly saw a round, chubby little bird fly in behind Jiang Qianxia. Chirping cheep cheep, it flew straight toward the staircase. The servants, flustered, wanted to catch the bird but suddenly remembered Jiang Qianxia's words. They immediately stopped in their tracks, looking uncertainly at the little bird as it flew toward the study on the second floor. They turned their heads nervously and asked Jiang Qianxia for guidance. "Madam, this." Jiang Qianxia frowned slightly and waved her hand. "Go prepare some bird food. Don't worry about the bird. I'll go take a look." After speaking, she quickly walked upstairs. A maid reacted and hurriedly said, "But, madam, sir is back and is in the study." Jiang Qianxia was stunned and glanced at the time in surprise. It was only 4 in the afternoon, still early for Sityu to finish work. Then, she felt a surge of joy in her heart. It seemed the little bird's search technique hadn't failed. Thinking of the little bird going to find Sityu alone, her heart tightened and she quickly walked toward the second floor. She dared not imagine what kind of expression Sityu would show if the chubby bird enthusiastically circled around him. However, when she arrived at the study door, an unexpected scene came into view. The chubby bird was strutting proudly on the man's desk, as if inspecting its own territory. The man was supposed to be writing, but due to the arrival of the little chubby bird, he stopped his pen and turned his gaze toward it. In those eyes, perpetually cold, there unexpectedly shimmered a gentle, fragmented light. Hearing Jiang Qianxia's footsteps, the man raised his head, his gaze meeting hers. The light in his eyes had no time to retreat, unexpectedly breaking into Jiang Qianxia's line of sight. The study's window was perfectly positioned on the west side, and sunlight streamed through, passing the cold and handsome man, spilling in from behind him. In an instant, it pulled his distant, aloof demeanor back to the realm of the human. Can a man also be described as beautiful? Jiang Qianxia felt a moment of daze, momentarily forgetting the purpose of her visit. Fortunately, the man suddenly coughed, interrupting her thoughts. Cough, cough. Seeing her snap back to reality, Sityu's lips curved slightly upward as he softly asked, "Is this your little bird?" Jiang Qianxia quickly regained her composure and was about to answer, only to find that the little bird had already hopped onto the man's shoulder without hesitation. It even started performing a head-shaking dance, lightly bumping its head against the man's. In an instant, Jiang Qianxia felt her cheeks burning. She tried hard to restrain her expression, but inside, she was utterly falling apart. "Ah, help. This little bird still has my small spell on it, and it's connected to my thoughts. Why would it do this? This silly little bird must have misunderstood. I was just casually praising Sityu in my mind. How did it go straight to him? Still dancing and shaking its head. Could it be courting? Saved my life. Where's the crack in the ground?" Jiang Qianxia's mind was in chaos, but the more flustered she felt, the more she tried to keep her expression calm. She took a deep breath, forced herself to suppress the embarrassment, and decided to fight back. "Ahem, who would have thought? You're quite popular with little birds. It's even courting you." After speaking, Jiang Qianxia let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one knows about this. If no one knows, it's as if it never happened. Sityu's previously restrained expression instantly relaxed. He revealed a look of astonishment mixed with delight and gazed at Jiang Qianxia meaningfully. "So, this little bird really likes me? Likes me enough to cross species and court me?" Jiang Qianxia's heart tightened. His gaze made her feel uneasy, and the shame she had just dispelled came rushing back. Her toes curled against the ground, half her body went numb, and she barely managed to force out an awkward smile. "Ma, maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Is that so?" The man revealed a pleased expression, looked at Jiang Qianxia seriously, and said slowly, "It's good if it's a misunderstanding, because..." He paused for 2 seconds and enunciated each word, "I already have a wife." Jiang Qianxia's beautiful eyes looked at him in surprise, her heartbeat skipping a beat. The next second, she realized and stared at him in confusion. Is he teasing me or hinting at something? No. With his focused personality, he's probably just being honest. After all, even though ours is a contractual marriage, we still got the certificate. Sityu felt helpless. Who was truly heartless here? He had originally planned to test the other party, and if she got scared, he would add, "A wife on the contract is still a wife." Unexpectedly, she wasn't afraid at all and directly drifted, switching lanes. Impressive. Sityu secretly gave her a thumbs up in his heart. He gently stroked the small bird on his shoulder, said to be enchanted, with his fingers. The bird, unafraid, rubbed against his fingers in return. This intimate gesture made Sityu unable to resist shifting his gaze to Jiang Qianxia's smooth and shiny hair. Noticing his gaze, Jiang Qianxia suddenly became alert. "Why did you come back so early?" The small bird sensed her thoughts and quickly flapped its wings, flying onto her shoulder. Sityu watched as the bird flew from his shoulder to Jiang Qianxia's, a wave of joy and indulgence rising in his heart. He looked up at Jiang Qianxia. "Oh, I have a banquet tonight, and I can bring a companion. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to attend. This banquet is mainly to welcome the head of an energy company from country K. The purpose of their visit is to select a local partner in this city. According to reliable information, the guest will be attending with his beloved wife, and he is someone with strong family values. Therefore, those with intentions to collaborate locally have all decided to bring their spouses to the event." Sityu was also interested in this collaboration, but he had always believed in the supremacy of strength. He didn't have the time or energy to cater to the other party. After all, when the strengths of both sides are similar, the one with a better attitude gratitude might gain some advantage. But what if his strength was double or even triple that of the other party? In the business world, no one is a fool, the outcome is clear. Therefore, Sityu had the confidence to do things his own way, but others were different. Many people in the city who wanted that energy collaboration with Country K began taking action. Even Fu Hingyu, for the sake of this deal, decided not to go through with his divorce and went to beg his wife on his knees. The moment Sityu heard about this, he thought of the last time Chin Junming accidentally booked them a couple's restaurant, and that woman practically climbed onto the table to get a closer look at the drama. A bold idea flashed through his mind. Surely that woman would be delighted to attend such an occasion. Not only could she revisit the gossip about Fu Hingyu and his wife, but she could also be like a weasel sneaking into the melon patch. It was because of this thought that he inexplicably went home. Unexpectedly, after hearing his proposal, Jiang Qianxia suddenly understood. So, you need me to accompany you to show off your love? Sityu was momentarily stunned, not expecting her to make her own connections and elevate his suggestion. But, to be honest, after realizing his feelings for her had changed, this proposal was hard for him to refuse. He nodded. Yes, I'm quite interested in this collaboration, so I wanted to ask for your help. Seeing her eyebrows slightly furrowed as if she were deep in thought, he added, the competitor this time is quite tricky. I heard that Fu Hingyu from Fu Real Estate even knelt before his almost divorced ex-wife for the sake of the collaboration. Swish. Someone's eyes instantly sparkled with excitement. Sityu noticed the woman's expression. A hint of amusement flashed in his eyes but quickly disappeared. He said earnestly, after all, this is outside the scope of the contract. I'll settle the payment separately. What do you think? Jiang Qianxia coughed lightly, smiling gracefully and reservedly. No problem. But she slightly furrowed her brows, determined to maintain her image regarding the extent of public displays of affection and the payment. I hope we can clarify it in advance. This way, I won't seem too obvious, right? Sityu held back his laughter, skillfully took out his phone, operated it a few times, and then smoothly said, there's no need to deliberately show off our affection. You can just walk in arm with me. After that, you can stay by my side or move around freely. As for the payment, check your phone, he added. Jiang Qianxia took out her phone upon hearing this and saw a bank notification confirming the deposit. 6 sixes had been credited. Satisfied, she put away her phone, smiled with crescent-shaped eyes, and playfully said, thank you, hubby. Jiang Qianxia's voice is actually very pleasant, somewhere between a mature woman's tone and a young girl's. Speaking with a slightly throaty voice didn't come across as pretentious. Instead, it added a touch of allure. Sityu almost lost his composure, lightly cleared his throat, and, with his mind in chaos, restrained himself, saying, you, just speak normally. Jiang Qianxia shrugged, returned to her normal tone, and showed no sign of being upset. In fact, that throaty voice was an impulsive reaction to the excitement of seeing 6 sixes, and she regretted it a bit afterward. She returned to normal and said generously, you're paying, so you call the shots. After saying that, she felt it wasn't quite appropriate and corrected herself. Ahem, no, it's not about the money. The important thing is a pleasant collaboration. Helping you is the right thing to do. Of course, the most important thing is that this gossip about Fu Hingyu is just too crucial. Can't miss it. Upon hearing this, Sityu's expression, which originally avoided looking at the woman, suddenly changed. Why does it sound like she's not in a hurry to gossip? He suspiciously observed Jiang Qianxia, who was clearly lost in thought, and decided to quietly listen further. Sure enough, her inner voice continued to mutter Fu Hingyu's name. Fu Hingyu, Fu Hingyu, Fu Yihan. I thought this name sounded familiar last time. Fu Hingyu seems to be the scumbag father of the male lead. The worst father in the entire story, 100 times more despicable than me, the wicked stepmother. He's the one who secretly harbored feelings for the female lead's mother, married a socially suitable wife, found a first love substitute as his mistress, had the illegitimate son, male lead, and then, due to a business marriage, didn't dare to divorce, resulting in the male lead's personality being not much better than the twisted little villain in my family. The most outrageous part is that he kept the mistress as a scapegoat while secretly bringing the female lead's mother into the house under the guise of being a nanny, which led the male lead to believe the female lead was his half-sister, causing countless tragic events. Sigh. Jiang Qianxia sighed inwardly and noticed that Sityu seemed to be waiting for her to say something. She quickly gave him an apologetic look and said, sorry, what did you just say? Sityu actually said nothing, already stunned by the revelations in the other party's inner thoughts. He had thought that Fu Hingyu cheating, having an illegitimate child, and still begging his wife not to divorce him was already hitting rock bottom, but he hadn't expected his imagination in this regard to be so limited. Such dramatic twists and turns. After coming back to his senses, he pretended to repeat, I mean, the styling team will come over later. Jiang Qianxia nodded lightly, then I'll go feed the little bird. She felt the connection with the bird was about to fade and worried it might fly away before she could express her gratitude. Watching Jiang Qianxia turn and walk out of the room, Sityu's brow slowly furrowed. The reason he had just spaced out was not only because of the shock but also because of one other thing. He had heard words like male lead, villain, and vicious stepmother in Jiang Qianxia's inner thoughts these past 2 days. Because he had heard the terms villain and original host several times from Jiang Qianxia's inner voice, he looked up some related information and gained a new understanding of the concept of transmigration into a book. So, she really isn't the original Jiang Qianxia but someone who has crossed over. But judging from her reaction, her original name should also be Jiang Qianxia? Or could it be that due to certain circumstances, she simply believes she has transmigrated into a book? Sityu lightly wrote down the name Jiang Qianxia twice on the paper, finally placing his pen between the 2 names. He couldn't confirm the answer, but he understood in his heart that regardless of which one it was, the person who attracted him was the one standing before him now. Downstairs. Jiang Qianxia went downstairs, and the servants had already silently prepared bird food. Very good. She nodded lightly, thinking to herself that this group of people was becoming more and more satisfactory. It seemed that before leaving the Sityu family, there was no need to deal with them, and she even felt tempted to take 2 maids with her, like the smartest one and the one best at massages. While feeding the birds, she suddenly felt the connection with the little birds completely disappear. disappear. She had thought the birds would fly away after losing her control, but unexpectedly, they just hopped around pecking at the food, tilted their heads to glance at her, and then continued to enjoy their meal with a carefree sway. Jiang Qianxia paused for a moment, set down the tray, instructed the maids to take a detour to avoid disturbing the birds feeding, and then went back upstairs. Back in the room, she quickly grabbed a notebook and began jotting down the plot about the male lead's scumbag father. The main thing was, she vaguely remembered that a key plot point seemed to be approaching. Although the book didn't explicitly state when the scumbag father would bring sweetheart mommy and the genius little female lead back to the Fu family, the moment when the little female lead and the little antagonist would meet should not be far off. This was because everything happened before the little antagonist turned 3, and there were only 2 months left until Situ Xiaoya's birthday. Moreover, when they met, the little female lead's mother was already working as a nanny in the Fu family, so the scumbag father's timing to bring them back should be within these 2 months. But right now, she hadn't mistreated Situ Xiaoya, and Situ Xiaoya hadn't turned gloomy and timid. Thinking about the little one's current state, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but curl her lips into a smile. The little villain has recently become much more cheerful, even giving her and Situ small gifts and making little requests. She was somewhat curious about how the storyline would develop next. She tried hard to recall but couldn't remember if the book mentioned a scene where the scumbag father kneels before the original wife. However, being able to witness the drama up close seemed like a delightful thing. Whatever. Jiang Qianxia put down her pen, and just as she stood up, there was a knock on the door. Jiang Qianxia guessed it was the styling team arriving. Situ had the maid come upstairs to call her, so she casually put away the notebook with the storyline notes and said without turning her head, "Come in." The door opened, she turned her head and nodded, casually saying, "The styling team has arrived, right? I'll be down in a moment. Can you pour me a glass of orange?" Before she could finish speaking, she froze. Standing outside the door was none other than Situ himself. He glanced at her and nodded slightly. "Orange juice? Sure." With that, he turned and went downstairs. Watching his departing figure, Jiang Qianxia was stunned, repeatedly mulling over in her mind, what did he say? He went to pour me orange juice? Is this still the same cold-faced domineering CEO who said, "Jiang Baixia, I give you 2 million a month hoping you can behave yourself"? She stood frozen in place, a trace of doubt flashing in her eyes. Could it be that he's been possessed or something? Outside the door, Situ almost stumbled when he heard the woman imitating his words in her mind. He stopped in his tracks, turned back to glance at the door with a puzzled expression, and slightly furrowed his brows. Did he speak like that back then? After half a second of doubt, the man regained his resolve, his thin lips pressed tightly together, thinking to himself that this woman's indifference while mimicking him was even more dramatic than his own back then. But after all, it was something he had said himself, so there was no point in arguing. He quickly went downstairs and headed straight for the juicer. The maids, seeing him take action personally, turned pale and hurried forward to take the fresh oranges from him, only to be coldly refused. Suddenly, the faces of several maids turned even paler. What does the young master mean by this? Behind the man who was busy on his own, they neither dared to approach nor leave. When Jiang Qianxia came downstairs, she immediately noticed the unusual atmosphere in the living room. Her gaze fell on the upright figure skillfully operating the juicer, and she instantly understood. She had no intention of helping the maids out of their predicament. Instead, she secretly found it amusing. Just as she was feeling pleased, the figure turned around, holding a freshly squeezed glass of orange juice and walked toward her. Jiang Qianxia quickly suppressed her schadenfreude, gracefully took the orange juice, and said calmly, "Thank you." But inwardly, she was muttering to herself, "Impressive, everyone. My boss, who earns 4 million a month, personally squeezed juice for me. What kind of level is this? In short, I did it. Do as you please." Lost in thought, Jiang Qianxia gracefully took a sip of juice. "See to you." He could only cover his mouth and cough lightly, masking the smile that almost slipped out. The maids nearby finally breathed a sigh of relief, but their hearts were filled with immense shock. What's going on? The young master actually made juice for the lady himself. Without them noticing, has the young master's affection for the lady truly leveled up? They don't even need to handle the juice anymore? The styling team, who had been instructed by Situ to wait for a moment, was also secretly surprised. They had styled many wealthy ladies before and had heard some rumors about this prominent figure. Being invited this time to style the lady of the house, they understood it was likely for that luxurious banquet. Because of occasional exchanges within their industry, they knew this prominent figure was married, but they had never seen his wife make an appearance. Some longtime clients had even mentioned gossip about the couple, saying that the wife seemed to have been forced upon him by the elders, and he wasn't very pleased. So they were mentally prepared to possibly see a typical high society couple with a superficial relationship. Who would have thought that this rumored cold and aloof big shot would personally make juice for his wife? Is this dissatisfaction? They watched as the maid tried to step forward to help, only to be stopped by the big shot with a cold expression. What kind of possessiveness is this? Even my wife's juice has to be freshly squeezed by me. Just after sighing, a few stylists caught sight of Jiang Qianxia's stunningly beautiful face and instantly understood the boss's possessiveness. They exchanged glances. Oh my gosh, I'm hooked. This is straight out of a domineering CEO's secret beauty novel. Jiang Qianxia paused for a moment when faced with the stylist's suddenly eager gaze, then continued to walk over gracefully. The experienced chief stylist quickly stepped forward to introduce themselves, inquired about her aesthetic preferences, and professionally provided several options for her to choose from. It must be said, this top-tier team is truly impressive. The completed styling not only aligned with Jiang Qianxia's aesthetic but also perfectly showcased her beauty and status. A woman's styling indeed takes quite a bit of time. In contrast, Situ only needed to simply tidy his hair and pick out an outfit. Thus, after finishing his styling, he opened his laptop and quietly worked on the side while waiting. This scene left several stylists staring intently, their eyes sparkling with amazement. As makeup artists for wealthy wives, they have witnessed all kinds of dynamics among affluent couples, quarreling, impatient, bossy. It's truly rare to see someone like Mr. Situ, who waits quietly and without complaint. Not to mention, he really is, as the rumors say, a workaholic, preferring to work in the living room just to stay close to his stunningly beautiful wife. Sigh, if their other half halves were this gorgeous, they probably wouldn't want to look away for even a second. When Jiang Qianxia's styling was nearly complete, Sityu also finished his work. He closed his laptop, stood up, and his gaze fell on the beautiful and newly transformed Jiang Qianxia, a look of amazement flashing in his eyes. However, the next moment, an abrupt voice broke the tranquility of the moment. Whoa, amazing. I'm stunning beyond belief again. I thought I was already beautiful enough, but I still underestimated myself. Facing the stylist and maid's compliments, she responded gracefully. Haha, you're too kind. It's really your skills that shine. Of course, my beauty also plays a significant role. The stark contrast between her elegant and noble appearance and her lively, playful personality finally made Sityu unable to resist coughing lightly. Everyone finally snapped out of their daze from Jiang Qianxia's beauty. The stylist hurried over and asked Sityu if he wanted to try another outfit, one that matched Jiang Qianxia's attire even better. Originally, the stylist had already finalized a general look for Jiang Qianxia, and Sityu had also chosen a suit and tie in a similar color scheme. But thinking of his deep affection for his wife, the stylist was struck by an idea. Perhaps matching couple outfits would impress this big shot even more. Sure enough, after listening to her suggestion, Sityu nodded lightly, indicating his agreement. In an instant, several stylists exchanged excited glances and squealed like little birds. It's real. We actually got the real thing. Sityu chose a new outfit, and the stylists in the dressing room gathered around Jiang Qianxia again, showering her with praises for her beauty. A slightly dazed intern relaxed and couldn't help blurting out, "Mrs. Sityu, you're so beautiful. If you debuted, you'd probably become an overnight sensation. There's a little celebrity who looks a lot like you." Before the words had even faded, she felt her boss's icy gaze, sharp as a blade, and realized she had misspoken. She quickly added, "But she's not as sophisticated and elegant as you. You're the ultimate premium version." The surroundings instantly fell silent. The mentor who had brought this intern along to broaden her horizons deeply regretted it and hurriedly apologized to Jiang Qianxia, trying to smooth things over. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Sityu. This is a young intern from our studio, inexperienced and stunned by your beauty." Jiang Qianxia was in an excellent mood at the moment. She could tell that the mention of the little star was indeed a compliment, and a mischievous thought arose in her heart. She waved her hand. "It's fine." Slightly tilting her head, she curled her lips and looked at the little intern, asking, "What's the name of that little celebrity you mentioned?" The little intern, who had already made 2 mistakes and been warned by her mentor, turned pale, lowered her head, and stammered with trembling lips, I am sorry, Mrs. Sityu. I didn't mean anything by it. I just think you're very beautiful." The intern's mentor, well aware that some people may appear gentle but hide sharp edges, quickly tugged at her apprentice's sleeve and softly reminded, "Mrs. Sityu is asking for the name." The intern hurriedly looked up and whispered, Jiang Qianxia, Mrs. Sityu. The celebrity I mentioned is called Jiang Qianxia." After speaking, she felt several strange gazes directed at her. She secretly looked up and found that those gazes came from the maids in the villa. Jiang Qianxia hadn't expected the little intern to be so timid, her face turning pale with fright. Unable to help herself, she extended her hand with a helpless smile. "Sorry, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Jiang Qianxia." In an instant, the little intern's eyes widened threefold, then shifted from shock to a flushed face. She took a deep breath, stepped back a big step, respectfully extended both hands to hold Jiang Qianxia's hand, and bowed deeply. "I'm really sorry." Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but laugh out loud. "It's okay. I'm glad you appreciate my beauty." The little intern slowly straightened up, her face flushed, her gaze shifting from amazement to admiration. Her eyes reddened, tears streaming down as she began rambling again. "Wah, you're really so gentle." The intern's mentor almost rolled their eyes in exasperation at this lively character. Fortunately, Jiang Qianxia didn't mind and even instructed the maid to pour her a glass of water to help her calm down. Little treasure held the hot water and cried again, "Woo-woo. Thank you. You are truly so beautiful and gentle." Jiang Qianxia laughed even more heartily. Seeing that Jiang Qianxia was truly not angry, a few stylists also relaxed. It turned out she was just teasing this little treasure. Moments later, Sityu came downstairs after changing his clothes. He usually prefers simplicity and low-key styles, and his previous outfits were chosen according to his preferences, with only a dark red tie selected to match Jiang Qianxia's red dress. If it weren't for the quality of the suit and his outstanding demeanor, it wouldn't even look like attire for attending a banquet. But even so, Sityu's presence could still be considered as giving the banquet some face. Now, however, his new outfit, from the tie and cuffs to the small embellishments on the suit, all incorporated luxurious red elements to complement Jiang Qianxia's dress. In an instant, his mystery and nobility were fully revealed. When he walked up to Jiang Qianxia, the stylists couldn't help but gasp again. What kind of divine looks do this couple have? They couldn't help but start imagining a new script, an aristocratic young master and a stunningly beautiful star. Jiang Qianxia was deeply shocked by Sityu's new attire. It feels like a lofty ice lotus on a snowy mountain suddenly transformed into a blazing red lotus. Thinking about it, Jiang Qianxia secretly glanced at the man and couldn't help but change her mind. No, it's a black lotus with one red petal, ha 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 dot. Hearing Jiang Qianxia's description, Sityu looked helpless. Originally feeling uncomfortable due to his flamboyant outfit, he secretly thought to himself, how could a grown man like him be compared to a lotus flower? As the styling team packed up their things and prepared to leave, the two began discussing Sityu Xiaoya's matters. Clearly, tonight, they wouldn't be able to join Sityu Xiaoya for dinner. The styling team, overhearing their conversation by chance, muttered, damn, hit it again and again. The child is just an accident. The parents are the true love. Thinking of the little one's disappointed look when he realized no one would be eating with him tonight, Jiang Qianxia felt a pang of guilt. After all, Well, it's fine if you've never had it, but once you do, losing it will only hurt more. The little one is probably still in a state of disbelief these days. So, Jiang Qianxia suggested, how about we take the little one along? After saying that, she noticed Situyu looking at her with a strange expression. She paused, just about to frown, but the man gently parted his lips and said, the little one? Jiang Qianxia. Oh, oops, accidentally called out the nickname. But it seems like this person doesn't want to take the little one along. Should I try to persuade him? Better persuade him. After all, I've received so much money. I need to live up to it. Once I'm gone, this father and son will have to rely on each other. Seeing her conflicted expression, Situyu quickly said, alright, let's bring Xiaoyi along then. The main reason he considered not bringing Situ Xiaoya was, he could already imagine this woman jumping around at the banquet, crazily gossiping, and Xiaoya would probably be able to hear her inner thoughts too. He was a bit worried that some of the scandals in wealthy families might be too outrageous and corrupt Xiaoya's innocent mind. However, the matter Jiang Qianxia mentioned is also a problem. Xiaoyi is currently in a state of insecure excitement. If he mistakenly thinks they've changed their minds, it could also hurt him. Thus, Situyu secretly made a decision in his heart. At worst, when encountering inappropriate gossip, he would take Xiaoya away from the scene. Dear readers who have made it this far, please leave a 5-star review. Many people who haven't read the story have given it 1-star ratings, which is really disheartening. QAQ. Due to the tight schedule, they decided to put on formal attire directly and head to the kindergarten to pick up Situ Xiaoya. As the car drove into the kindergarten, the school bell for dismissal rang just in time. The children, under the guidance of their teachers, obediently lined up and walked out of the school gate. This kindergarten is spacious and bright, but there aren't many children. It is a local aristocratic kindergarten, and most of the children come from wealthy or prestigious families. Every day during drop-off and pick-up times, 2 rows of security guards stand at the gate. Most of the people picking up the children are drivers and nannies. One by one, little princesses and young masters stride out of the school gate with their heads held high, then are respectfully escorted away by their family nannies. The little Situ Xiaoya seemed out of place in the crowd. The other children's faces were filled with various expressions of excitement, dissatisfaction, or arrogance, but he was as quiet as a little ghost, his head slightly lowered, as if detached from the world. Jiang Qianxia felt that this little one was the cutest among the crowd. She couldn't help but roll down the car window, wanting to call out, but then she noticed the little one seemed to sense something. Suddenly, he looked up, and in an instant, those calm eyes seemed to light up. It was as if he had been enchanted, instantly blending into the cheerful group of children around him. He mouthed the word mom, and then, ignoring the kindergarten teacher's exclamation, he dashed forward on his little legs, running straight toward her. Just now, he thought he was dreaming, as if he heard the beautiful stepmother say, baby is the cutest. Turns out, she really came. Situ Xiaoya heard the teacher behind him trying to stop him. His lips pressed into a straight line, and he ran toward Jiang Qianxia with all his might. The security personnel saw this and hurried forward to stop him, but unexpectedly, the little guy easily dodged the obstruction of 2 adults and ran straight toward Jiang Qianxia. Originally stunned, Jiang Qianxia felt a surge of emotion in her heart. She suddenly thought of how the little one always cautiously hoped they would take him to kindergarten, yet never asked them to pick him up. It was a kind of heart-wrenching sensibility, and this sensibility, she understood deeply. Back when she was in the Jiang family, the original owner also had a similar kind of maturity, though it was short-lived, and later the original owner lost her way. But Jiang Qianxia understood that it was a kind of maturity born out of fear that her closest relatives might distance themselves due to her excessive demands. She took a deep breath, preparing to push the door open and go down to catch Situ Xiaoya, when suddenly she heard a click beside her. Situyu had already opened the car door. However, after getting out of the car, he did not immediately go to catch Situ Xiaoya but instead turned back and extended a hand toward her. They were dressed in formal attire, with castle-like dreamlike buildings outside the window. This scene was like a fairy tale, making Jiang Qianxia pause slightly. The handsome and stern man rarely showed a hint of a smile. Get off from this side. It's good to develop proper habits. Upon hearing this, Jiang Qianxia placed her hand in his palm, gently exerted some force, and carefully lifted her skirt as she followed him out of the car. Due to this brief interlude, as the two rounded the back of the car, Situ Xiaoya had already rushed to the front of the vehicle. When he discovered that it wasn't just his stepmother who had come to pick him up, but also his father, the little boy's face showed an expression of disbelief, and he froze in place. At that moment, a child being led by a nanny not far away came hopping and skipping over, his lively voice surprising everyone. He shouted loudly, Situ Xiaoya, are these your dad and mom? Situ Xiaoya stood dumbfounded more than a meter away from Jiang Qianxia, his eyes gradually glistening with a watery sheen, yet for some reason, he didn't rush over. He completely ignored the voice of the child behind him. But that little kid, speaking to Situyu, who never responded to anyone, indicated that he was a child who didn't need an answer at all. So, he quickly responded again in an exaggerated loud voice. Wow, look, everyone. Situ Xiaoya's mom and dad looked just like a prince and princess. Most of the children behind were picked up by nannies or drivers. Seeing this handsome young man and woman come to pick up Situ Xiaoya, they couldn't help but sneak a glance. Now, hearing what that little boy said, they immediately turned to look in unison. Then the children started chattering and discussing. It's true, a little girl with a rosy face muttered, but that's not right. My mom said I'm the princess, so how could there be such a big princess? As she spoke, she exaggeratedly tilted her head back to look at Jiang Qianxia's height. Another little girl disagreed, standing with her hands on her hips to defend her point. Situ Xiaoya's mom is the princess. The hem of the princess dress my mom bought me is just that big. The children's innocent chatter was filled with envy for Situ Xiaoya's parents personally coming to pick him up. Among this group of kids, many of their parents were busy with their careers, and only a few mothers were wealthy socialites who didn't work but still wouldn't personally pick them up. Whenever a child's parents arrived at the kindergarten, that child would always become the center of attention. Today, this little boy is none other than Situ Xiaoya. Unlike other children who hold their parents' hands and bask in everyone's admiration, he seemed completely unaware of the attention around him. After gently confirming the surprise, he slowly walked over to Jiang Qianxia and Situyu, revealing a shy smile. This smile instantly melted Jiang Qianxia's Xiao's heart. She reached out her hand, intending to pick up the little one, but Situ, standing beside her, had already taken off his suit jacket and stopped her. Let me do it, your dress isn't convenient. Just as the three were about to turn and leave, the previously pink-cheeked little girl mustered up her courage, blushing, and ran over. Auntie, are you Situ Xiaoye's mom? The little girl's voice finally caught the attention of Situ Xiaoye, who almost never interacted with his classmates. He pursed his lips tightly and looked at her warily. When the little girl saw Jiang Qianxia turn around, her eyes widened in surprise. From afar, this auntie was truly beautiful. Up close, she was stunningly gorgeous. Holding her breast slightly, she clutched the hem of her clothes and shyly said, Auntie, can you let Situ Xiaoye be friends with me? Jiang Qianxia was momentarily stunned and turned to look at the little boy beside her. He was clearly nervous because of the little girl's arrival. She gently held Situ Xiaoye's small fist to help him relax, then curiously asked the little girl, why do you want to be friends with our Xiaoye? Why would the young master be so guarded against this little girl? Could it be? Just as Jiang Qianxia's thoughts drifted away, speculating about something unpleasant, she saw the little girl suddenly fidgeting and saying, well, I think Situ Xiaoye is the most handsome kid in kindergarten. As she spoke, the little girl's big, watery eyes blinked, shy yet expectant, as she looked at Jiang Qianxia. But now I want to be friends with you more, because you're the most beautiful grown-up I've ever seen. Instantly, Situ Xiaoye's little fists clenched tightly again, glaring angrily at the little girl. Jiang Qianxia was stunned. So all that worry was for nothing. Turns out she's just a little face-obsessed girl. Besides, the lively look of the little girl is indeed adorable. I was saying, she doesn't seem like the type to bully Xiaoye at all. Jiang Qianxia laughed and gently asked, Auntie agrees to be friends with you. What's your name? The little girl's eyes lit up instantly when Jiang Qianxia agreed, and she said excitedly, Auntie, my name is Bai Tian Tian. Jiang Qianxia's pupils contracted. Bai Tian Tian? Which Bai Tian Tian? Could it be the little female protagonist? Upon hearing this, Situ's expression shifted, and his gaze involuntarily turned toward the little girl. Situ Xiaoye was the same, his little face tense as he secretly stared at the little girl acting sweet in front of his mom. Jiang Qianxia carefully examined Bai Tiantian's adorable little face, which resembled a red apple, and noticed that her features indeed carried traces of a single-parent family. Even her mother seemed to be troubled by a mistress. Her heart sank, and Jiang Qianxia quietly took a deep breath, revealing a gentle smile. Sweetie, may I ask you a question? Bai Tiantian blinked drowsily amidst the pretty auntie's smile. Okay. Is your mom's name Bai Yi? Bai Tiantian looked at Jiang Qianxia in surprise. Auntie, how do you know my mom's name? Do you know my mom? After receiving a positive answer, the smile on Jiang Qianxia's face almost faltered. What's going on? If this really is the little female lead, has the plot gone off track? Isn't she supposed to appear later? Could it be that because I changed the plot, the storyline where the little sunshine female lead saves the little villain has turned into warming the little villain? Suppressing the doubts in her heart, Jiang Qianxia shook her head at Bai Tiantian. I don't know her. Auntie knows magic and guessed it. The little girl, being innocent, didn't doubt her. She just let out a wow and then looked at Jiang Qianxia with admiration. Seeing that Jiang Qianxia and the others were about to leave, Bai Tiantian sensibly didn't hold her back for more conversation. However, after Jiang Qianxia and the other two got into the car, she still couldn't help but call out to Jiang Qianxia again. Auntie Jiang. After confirming that the other party was the little female lead, the one who exposed herself in the plot, Jiang Qianxia didn't dislike her. She wasn't influenced by the plot. Instead, she objectively thought that this child was pure and adorable. What's wrong, Tian? We're friends now, right? Tian blinked expectantly and asked. Jiang Qianxia smiled. Yes. Unexpectedly, Tian shyly added, then, Aunt Jiang, can you let Situ Xiaoye and me be friends? Speaking, she shyly explained without waiting for Jiang Qianxia to respond. I know you must have something to do and need to leave, but I thought about it. You are the most beautiful adult I've ever seen. Situ Xiaoye is the most beautiful child I've ever seen, and I still want to be friends with him. Thinking about the original plot, where the little antagonist was obsessively infatuated with the little heroine, Jiang Qianxia internally disapproved of such feelings. But after some thought, she still didn't stop her and instead said to Tian, I'm sorry, Auntie can't agree to that because if you want to be friends with Xiaoye, you need to ask for his consent, okay? I can't make the decision for him. Upon hearing this, Bai Tiantian's face showed a hint of disappointment, but she didn't persist. She lowered her head, thought for a moment, and then sincerely said to Situ Xiaoye, who was watching her warily from the side, Situ Xiaoye, would you like to be friends with me? Sidong Xiaoye tightly pressed his lips together, glaring fiercely at the little girl's expectant face for 2 seconds before turning his head to look the other way. Seeing this, Bai Tian showed a predictably disappointed expression. Alright, then I'll ask again tomorrow. Still, thank you, Auntie. Goodbye, Auntie. Watching the little girl's departing figure, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The little heroine is indeed lovable, and she didn't forget to politely say thank you. Just as she finished thinking, she felt her hand being tightly grasped by a small hand with considerable strength, indicating the little one was very nervous. Jiang Qianxia was stunned for a moment, then belatedly realized what was happening. Is the little boy's resistance to the little girl protagonist because of me? After being seen through, Situ Xiaoye's body stiffened, and his little head couldn't help but become muddled. His face also turned slightly pale. It's over. The stepmother knows. Will the stepmother dislike him? He is not a good kid. Oh yeah, so the little one likes me so much, afraid I'll be taken away? Does this mean I actually have some talent for being a stepmom? But how should I comfort him? Jiang Qianxia gently patted the little guy's head with concern and was pleasantly surprised to find his eyes had regained their sparkling brightness. This is too easy to appease. Woo-woo, whose little one is so easy to cheer up? Aya, it's mine. In the silent carriage, the little one's eyes grew increasingly bright. The nearby Situ, just spoil him then. Besides, who would boast about having a talent for being a stepmother? However, the corners of his lips unconsciously curved into a smile. Silently waiting for Jiang Qianxia to perform for a while, he timely cleared his throat and interrupted. It's getting late. Let's change Xiaoye's clothes. Hearing Situ's words, Situ Xiaoye blinked and looked at him. Although he knew this child was smart, Situ still felt he had underestimated him. After all, he was not yet but 3 years old, yet he could suppress the matter of hearing inner voices so naturally, without any abnormality. This indicates that he is no ordinary genius. After pondering for a moment, Situ actually started discussing the details of this banquet with Situ Xiaoya. Jiang Qianxia, standing nearby, slightly widened her eyes. OMG, is this what a wealthy family is like? Starting so young. The father and son both paused their actions, unable to resist secretly glancing at Jiang Qianxia. In the end, Situ realized that Situ Xiaoya's comprehension ability indeed exceeded his expectations. Moreover, he had his own sense of aesthetics. When choosing a small suit, Xiaoya showed an unusually strong opinion. He immediately picked out a black suit in the same color scheme as Situ's, and he paired it with a small matte red bow tie. The stylist who followed along helped tidy up his little curls, and the styling was quickly completed. In the end, everyone was surprised to find that the little guy's chosen bow tie was actually in the same color scheme as Jiang Qianxia's, even with almost identical glossiness. The stylist was stunned. What kind of sharp sense is this? Jiang Qianxia was extremely satisfied after seeing the little one's outfit. This family of 3 making their entrance will definitely dazzle the entire venue. The banquet was hosted by the Zhao Group, which had long-term cooperation with that energy company, with the purpose of introducing the agents of the partners to major local companies. This new energy source was of no use to the Zhao family, so it was more like giving face to the agents and local companies, a win-win situation. Situ was one of the most eye-catching guests at the event. The moment his family of 3 appeared, several gazes in the banquet hall turned toward them in unison, immediately sparking shock and admiration. Is this man, holding an adorable baby in one arm and walking arm in arm with a stunningly beautiful wife, really the cold and unfeeling Situ? Everyone present widened their eyes, each filled with questions. It was well known that Situ had a frosty personality, although there were rumors that he had children, and seemed to have married. There wasn't even a wedding, leading many in their circle to speculate about this wife who was unusually averse to marriage alliances. And now, are the rumors false, or is there another hidden truth? This family of 3 was so dazzling it was almost blinding, causing many guests who originally came for new energy cooperation to instantly change their minds, their expressions shifting dramatically. Wasn't it said that Situ had little interest in this? Could it be that he also intends to curry favor with that person? The shrewd and calculating executives narrowed their eyes, secretly thinking that their assessment might have been wrong. The value of new energy cooperation must be higher than expected, otherwise, Situ wouldn't be putting in so much effort. However, the business world is like a battlefield. They were not discouraged by the strength of their opponent. Instead, they became even more motivated. In the crowd, the blonde man standing next to Zhao Choutong noticed the change in the scene and couldn't help but call out to the stunned Zhao Choutong in clumsy Chinese. Zhao Jiu, who just came in. Why did everyone's gaze suddenly become so intense? The blonde man suddenly froze, unable to think of a suitable adjective. Interrupted by his clumsy Chinese, Zhao Choutong felt a bit helpless and glanced at him. This man, who clearly had a model-like figure and deep blue eyes, somehow spoke with a silly tone. She sighed. Edmund, just speak to me in English. Edmund tilted his head, puzzled. Why? I think my Chinese is pretty good. Zhao Choutong rolled her eyes at him helplessly. Forget it. She stepped toward the family of 3, introducing Situ's identity to Edmund as she walked. After hearing the introduction, Edmund's eyes lit up. That's the one my old man told me to strive for cooperation with. Old Situ? Zhao Choutong paused in her steps and turned back to look at Edmund with a strange expression. Here's a suggestion. If you still want to cooperate with him, it's best not to call him Old Situ. Edmund nodded half understandingly. Got it. I should call him my dear friend Old Situ. Zhao Choutong was exhausted. If it weren't for her determination to prove herself to her father and her serious intention to divorce Xing Xiaoyuan, that freeloading man, she wouldn't have taken on the responsibility of organizing this banquet. If she hadn't taken it on, she wouldn't have encountered this stubborn fool. But it was too late for regrets. Just yesterday, even the Zhao family hadn't expected that the person who came wasn't Edmund's father, but Edmund himself. It was said that Edmund was one of the developers of this energy project. Therefore, as the host of the banquet, Zhao Choutong originally only needed to introduce the local partner company's president to the elderly gentleman, but now she also had to act as a tour guide and Chinese teacher. She corrected him. President Yu. We all call him President Yu. Edmund heard this and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. But why is everyone else called President Zhao? President Li. Zhao Choutong was truly overwhelmed by this endless stream of questions. She quickened her pace, pretended not to hear, and walked briskly ahead. When she approached the family of 3, Zhao Choutong first glanced at Jiang Qianxia, gave her a smile, and then turned to Situ Yu. Mr. Yu, welcome to your visit. She introduced Edmund to Situ Yu and then greeted Jiang Qianxia with a smile. Situ Yu was surprised by Edmund's identity, as everyone had heard that the business partner had been in love with his wife for many years, yet Edmund was clearly the heir. He greeted Edmund politely but without enthusiasm, paying more attention to the familiarity between Zhao Choutong and Jiang Qianxia. Seeing Situ Yu looking in her direction, Zhao Choutong quickly smiled and explained, last time I ran into a little trouble, and Mrs. Yu helped me out a lot. Jiang Qianxia responded courteously, not at all, not at all. What big help? It was clearly just accidentally catching a juicy piece of gossip. Situ Yu couldn't help but glance at Jiang Qianxia, meeting her teasing gaze. It's all thanks to the ring you gave. Zhao Choutong was able to compare and realize how stingy the freeloader at home is. Jiang Qianxia thought to herself and once again cast her gaze toward Zhao Choutong. My sister looks radiant. Something good must be happening. Let me see what it is. Hey, about to divorce the scumbag soon, and romance is just around the corner. Jiang Qianxia's eyes lit up as she looked at Edmund beside Zhao Choutong, her gaze full of admiration. Wow, this young hunk is indeed much better than that old jerk before, but the future remains uncertain. Her thoughts shifted, and a faint smile curved at the corner of her lips. With that figure and appearance, Sister Zhao is truly blessed. Seeing the woman's gaze starting to turn strange, Situ Yu hurriedly cleared his throat to interrupt her wandering thoughts. Jiang Qianxia looked at Situ Yu in confusion. Do you have a cold? Situ Yu slightly pursed his lips and shook his head. No. In his arms, Situ Xiaoya sneaked a glance at Situ Yu and Jiang Qianxia, unable to hold back a smile. Zhao Choutong, standing nearby, was stunned as she watched the interaction of this family. family of 3. After learning Jiang Qianxia's identity, she had been somewhat worried. She had seen plenty of things in wealthy families and thought about how Jiang Qianxia had done her a big favor. Coupled with the odd behavior that day, she had originally planned to find some time after the banquet to invite Jiang Qianxia out for a meal. Unexpectedly, Situ actually showed up with her. Moreover, completely different from what she had imagined. No wonder my old man thinks highly of this Situ. They really are very much in love. Suddenly, a warm breath mixed with clumsy Chinese came to her ear. Zhao Choutong leaned back half a step, extended a finger, and pressed against the passionate chest muscles of the man from Country M, pushing him away. Then, she smiled slightly and said, yes. It seems her worries were unnecessary. However, a beautiful woman like Miss Jiang truly deserves an excellent husband. Although Situ was as indifferent as the rumors described, his gaze revealed warmth when he looked at Miss Jiang. Moreover, he was a workaholic. Zhao Choutong used to scoff at workaholics, thinking their lives were dull. Because of this, she chose Jing Xiaoyuan. But in the end, she discovered Jing Xiaoyuan was actually too idle, constantly involved with mistresses one after another, which was truly exhausting. Watching Miss Jiang and her family of 3, Zhao Choutong couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret. What was the point of clinging to a freeloader all these years? What she didn't know was that while she was feeling emotional, Jiang Qianxia's heart was celebrating wildly. Oh my, the aloof elder sister and the passionate little wolf dog. Sister dog literature is the best. C2U. He couldn't help but glance at Jiang Qianxia again. If he remembered correctly, he was 2 years older than her. Noticing his father's gaze, Situ Xiaoya blinked and gently patted his father's shoulder. Zhao Choutong personally brought Edmund over to greet Situ, and the people nearby, upon hearing Edmund's identity, were all astonished. They had never seen the agent and thought the person would make a grand entrance later. Unexpectedly, the main figure had already arrived. Damn it, why was the agent replaced? How could they not have received the news? In an instant, half of the people who were originally planning to get close to Situ all turned toward Edmund and Zhao Choutong. Now, it was immediately clear who had an interest in the new energy cooperation. However, quite a few people still came over to greet Situ. Thus, this scene unfolded. Mr. Yu, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Zhangyan from the Cade Group, and this is my wife. The president of Cade Group is truly devoid of virtue and talent. He betrayed the brother he started the business with, stole his brother's fiancée, and obtained company shares, yet he has no idea how to run the company. Let me take another look. As expected, the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Mr. Yu, it's an honor to meet you. I'm the CEO of Shanghai Group, and this is my wife. As he spoke, the slick middle-aged man cast an admiring glance at Jiang Qianxia, who was standing beside Situ. Your wife is truly, this. He gave Situ a thumbs up, then glanced at the cub in Situ's arms. Your noble child is truly, this. He gave another thumbs up. Cabinet. After the sycophantic boss left, Situ helplessly looked at Jiang Qianxia, who was struggling to hold back her laughter. If you're tired, you can take a break. You don't have to stay with me. Jiang Qianxia shook her head reservedly. It's fine. The main thing is that these middle-aged executives are too funny. If I leave, I won't get to enjoy the drama. Suddenly, she looked at Situ with a slightly suspicious gaze. Could it be that flattering boss just praised me as this, and also praised my child as this, but didn't praise him as this? Is he jealous? Upon hearing this, before Situ could react, a miniature version of this appeared in front of him. The eldest son gave him a thumbs up. C2U. Jiang Qianxia, seeing this, also gave a big thumbs up. I'll give you double this. Alright, can I enjoy the gossip now? Situ was completely helpless. Then, he was forced to listen to a whole bunch of gossip about middle-aged executives. Finally, just as he was about to feel nauseated from being stuffed with one old gossip after another, a couple arrived late, becoming the second most eye-catching pair at the scene after Situ and Jiang Qianxia. It was none other than Fu Hingyu and Shuang Hanfei. As they walked in hand, many people who knew the inside story exchanged peculiar glances. Perhaps these two are still unaware that the agent has been replaced. One wonders if the infamous Fu Dashao, who reportedly knelt to beg his wife to come back, will regret it to the core once he learns the truth. And the one shining in everyone's eyes was none other than Jiang Qianxia. Oh, here comes the exciting part. Isn't this the orange juice sister? Oh right, speaking of which, she's the unlucky original wife of the little male lead scumbag dad. Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but take a closer look at Zhuang Hanfei's face, suddenly feeling a bit surprised. Oh no, haven't they already separated? Because of Jiang Qianxia's inner voice, Situ couldn't help but glance unexpectedly at Fu Hingyu, who had just entered. Fu Hingyu also immediately noticed Situ, as well as the little one in his arms and Jiang Qianxia by his side. The smile he had managed to squeeze out almost cracked. According to his estimation, Situ had little interest in the new energy cooperation. As long as he didn't interfere, this cooperation was already in the bag, which was why he would. A trace of humiliated coldness flashed in Fu Hingyu's eyes. Lower his head in humiliation to this woman, Shuang Hanfei. But now, not only did Situ bring his wife, but also his child, which might render Fu Hingyu's efforts all in vain. Fu Hingyu's eyes darkened, and he took a deep breath before putting on a polite smile again. He linked arms with Shuang Hanfei and walked towards Situ. Standing in front of the family of 3, Fu Hingyu had already regained his composure. The corners of his mouth lifted into a faint, insincere smile as he greeted meaningfully. Oh, President Yu, it seems you're making quite an impressive entrance today. Among the local elites, Fu Hingyu was also one of the top second-generation heirs. Unfortunately, there was always someone better. After Situ Yunxiao, there was still Situ, overshadowing him, especially since Situ was nothing like his elder brother Situ Yunxiao, who was gentle and mild. Most of the time, Situ simply ignored Fu Hingyu's provocations. However, this time, Situ surprised Fu Hingyu by responding, not at all, nowhere near President Fu's level. Just 6 words words almost made Fu Hingyu so angry that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Not as good as Fu Hingyu. Who else present here would endure such humiliation just to attend an event with their wife? Seeing how C2U effortlessly provoked Fu Hingyu's anger, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but give him a mental thumbs up. Impressive, truly impressive. Then, Fu Hingyu caught sight of a smile at the corner of C2U's mouth. Instantly, his eyes turned even redder. What did he mean by that? Was this deliberate mockery? If not for the rational voice reminding him of the occasion, Fu Hingyu might have already swung his fist. What infuriated him even more was Zhuang Hanfei standing nearby. She gave Jiang Qianxia an astonished glance, then turned to C2U and said warmly, "President Yu, you're truly fortunate." Speaking, she greeted Jiang Qianxia again. "Hello, Mrs. Yu. My name is Zhuang Hanfei, an old classmate of Mr. Yu, though not very familiar. You look so congenial to me. Shall we get to know each other?" The heroic demeanor displayed at the couple's restaurant still lingered in Jiang Qianxia's mind. She immediately extended her hand in surprise. "My name is Jiang Qianxia. It's a pleasure to meet you." Zhuang Hanfei felt a stir in her heart. Facing Jiang Qianxia's gaze filled with surprise, a trace of joy unexpectedly welled up within her. Such admiration, coming from this stunningly beautiful woman, was simply uplifting. Fu Hingyu's face was as dark as ink, and he said coldly, "Zhuang Hanfei, don't forget why you're here." He turned a deaf ear to Zhuang Hanfei's talk about being kindred spirits, his heart burning with rage. She clearly knew about his grudge with Situyu, yet she still insisted on acting close in front of Situyu's wife. Gritting his teeth, he suppressed his anger and urged, "You haven't forgotten what you promised me, have you?" Unexpectedly, Zhuang Hanfei turned back, raised an eyebrow, and smiled coolly, saying, "Of course I remember. I only promised to accompany you to the banquet. From the moment we walked through the door, our deal was over." The divorce application had long been submitted, and during the cooling-off period, the divorce was already a foregone conclusion. They had even settled the division of assets. When Fu Hingyu asked her to accompany him to the banquet, she casually replied, "If you want me to go with you, fine, but you have to kneel." Originally intending to humiliate him, she hadn't expected him to actually kneel. That kneeling made her completely despise him. Enough. She waved him off with a face full of disdain. "You're a grown man. Handle your own problems and stop bothering me." Fu Hingyu's eyes reddened with anger as he coldly stared at Zhuang Hanfei, whom he had treated like a stray dog, and questioned, "Zhuang Hanfei, after all these years of friendship, do you not care at all?" She laughed, a half smile on her face, and said, "You're talking to me about friendship?" She glanced at the banquet guests and sneered coldly, "You want me to hash out our relationship here with you?" Fu Hingyu's expression instantly froze. Seeing him speechless, Zhuang Hanfei turned to Jiang Qianxia with a faint smile, seemingly a bit apologetic. "Sorry for letting you witness this joke." Jiang Qianxia gently shook her head, a trace of admiration flashing in her eyes as she thought to herself, "Wow, is this the kind of woman who can make a scumbag kneel without daring to show anger? She's way too cool." Fu Hingyu noticed Situyu's amused gaze and was so angry he almost exploded. Zhuang Hanfei, however, didn't spare him another glance, her gaze shifting to Jiang Qianxia, a sense of pride rising in her heart. "Do you have anything planned later? I can take you to meet some friends," she asked Jiang Qianxia softly. Zhuang Hanfei and Situyu were once classmates, but they weren't close. She was not captivated by Situyu's melancholic and icy demeanor and didn't pay much attention. Even after learning he got married, Fu Hingyu, however, had always regarded Situyu as a rival and had once mentioned to her Situyu's marriage to a wild phoenix. She had long been dissatisfied with Fu Hingyu's mindset, and now it seemed her judgment was correct. Fu Hingyu was indeed quite low. Although Jiang Qianxia had an outstanding temperament, she was not part of the inner circle. Zhuang Hanfei instinctively knew there must be some deeper connection. However, she simply felt a natural rapport with Jiang Qianxia. Nearby, Fu Hingyu, seeing her intent to bring Situyu's wife into her social circle, was so furious he almost exploded. Burning with anger, Fu Hingyu was met with Situyu's calm reminder. "By the way, President Fu, are you still unaware the originally appointed agent has been replaced?" "What?" Fu Hingyu looked at Situyu in confusion. After a moment, he sneered, "What's this? Even the renowned Mr. Yu is resorting to such petty tricks now?" He glanced at the child in Situyu's arms, then looked at Jiang Qianxia, and said disdainfully, "Or is it that Mr. Yu brought his family here just to have a meal?" Situyu thought for a moment and nodded, saying, "You could say that." Fu Hingyu stared at the calm-faced Situyu, his doubts deepening. A sudden inspiration made him realize that this collaboration might hold undiscovered value, enough to make Situyu care so much. Suddenly, Fu Hingyu was burning with anxiety. He gave up trying to persuade Zhuang Hanfei and turned to look for the agent. At the banquet, Situyu didn't need to socialize. Instead, others came to curry favor with him. He originally planned to stay by Jiang Qianxia's side, but since she wanted to mingle with Zhuang Hanfei, he naturally couldn't follow along. He nodded slightly at Zhuang Hanfei and said to Jiang Qianxia, "Call me if you need anything." After saying that, he was about to leave with Situ Xiaoya in his arms, but the little one grabbed his collar, wriggling a bit as if expressing some dissatisfaction. Realizing his intention, Situ silently gave a bitter smile. The reason he took Xiaoyi away was to prevent Jiang Qianxia from hearing any inappropriate gossip, but he hadn't expected this little guy to become addicted to gossip as well. Looking at his pair of bright, sparkling eyes, Situ could no longer bring himself to say anything to stop him. Zhuang Hanfei, seeing this, was charmed by the little guy's cuteness and encouraged Jiang Qianxia, "Oh, he seems to be even more attached to you. Take the little darling with you." In the end, the one who left turned out to be Situyu alone. Looking at Situyu's back, Zhuang Hanfei couldn't help but sigh. I never thought Situyu had this side to him. Although Jiang Qianxia had no experience in love, she could still catch the implied meaning in Zhuang Hanfei's words. In fact, she hadn't expected Situyu to act this way either. She rarely saw that cold, mechanical workaholic from the beginning anymore. Thinking about this, her cheeks flushed slightly. Zhuang Hanfei, standing nearby, saw through it but chose not to say anything, a trace of envy flickering in her eyes. Couples who still feel moved by each other after marriage are truly enviable. Zhuang Hanfei lowered her head to tease the adorable little one, then took them to find her group of girlfriends. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Zhuang Hanfei's group of girlfriends, much like her, were instantly instantly captivated by Jiang Qianxia and the little one's appearance. Perhaps it was the natural softness of women, bringing a sense of closeness, or maybe it was because Jiang Qianxia got along so well with these ladies. C2 Xiaya unexpectedly responded to these beautiful ladies with his deep and beautiful mixed-race eyes. Even just holding Jiang Qianxia's hand, shaking his head, or nodding, he made the ladies' hearts flutter with affection. While everyone was happily chatting, a young lady suddenly noticed the direction of the staircase. She hesitated, pointing over there, and said to Jiang Qianxia, "Qianxia, is that your mother-in-law?" Hearing this, everyone turned their heads and saw several slightly older wealthy ladies descending the stairs with an imposing presence. Among them, besides Jiang Qianxia's mother-in-law Zhu Qing, Li Qianjin's mother-in-law was also present. That mother-in-law saw Li Qianjin and waved with a smile. Miss Li quickly stepped forward, and Zhu Qing's expression instantly turned gloomy. She glared discontentedly at the indifferent Jiang Qianxia. Most of those present were married, and conflicts between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law were already commonplace. Although they wanted to support Jiang Qianxia, their new sister, their family background was insignificant compared to the Sidhu family, leaving everyone helpless. Moreover, while they found Jiang Qianxia quite interesting, it didn't seem appropriate to interfere in someone else's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law dispute, especially since they had just met. Some were secretly worried that Jiang Qianxia might be put in a difficult position and were about to suggest going over to check, but unexpectedly, Jiang Qianxia acted as if she hadn't noticed anything, calmly continuing the previous conversation. Immediately, the sisters' expressions changed. Reassessing Jiang Qianxia, admiration flickered in their eyes. Meanwhile, Zhu Qing, who didn't get a response from Jiang Qianxia, felt embarrassed and had to pretend nothing happened as she walked away. Seeing this, a sister with a difficult mother-in-law sighed, "Ah, Xiaxia has the confidence of having a sensible husband, unlike my cowardly one, who gets endlessly nagged by the old lady every time. Sigh, what can you do?" The sisters' conversation began to revolve around the topic of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships, and they didn't treat Jiang Qianxia as an outsider at all, speaking freely. Although Jiang Qianxia didn't deliberately observe their facial features, thanks to her talent, she could almost discern the general idea at a glance. The feeling of being actively accepted warmed her heart. In the end, as the conversation grew lively, they even pulled Jiang Qianxia into a WeChat group. The WeChat group is named "Wife Finally Becomes Mother-in-Law." Jiang Qianxia's eyes showed a hint of surprise, thinking, "If I remember correctly, all of you here are wealthy heiresses, and this is your goal? Thank you. Once again I'm stunned. After listening to their complaints about their mothers-in-law, Jiang Qianxia gained some understanding. Most of them were pampered daughters before marriage, marrying equally spoiled young men, embodying the idea of being born in Rome and simply lying back to enjoy life. However, while mothers-in-law can accept spoiled sons, they may not necessarily tolerate spoiled daughters-in-law. Unable to discipline their sons, they often turn their attention to disciplining their daughters-in-law. These sons, unlike Situyu, lack the ability to start their own businesses. Even if love develops after marriage and the relationship is good, they cannot firmly stand up to protect their wives, thus leading to conflicts. However, Jiang Qianxia could also tell that although this group of wealthy sisters complained, they didn't really care too much. Everyone genuinely hoped that the mother-in-law would retire early or focus on disciplining her own son. Moreover, they all had a title in the group. As soon as Jiang Qianxia joined the group owner gave her a name, role model. There were also two unmarried heiresses in the group, one named Gossip and the other named Pilgrim. Jiang Qianxia was simply speechless. She couldn't explain that she would eventually divorce Situyu, so she could only helplessly accept this honorary title of being a role model. During the chat, one of the sisters suddenly felt that Jiang Qianxia looked a bit familiar. Then, she remembered. "Are you secretly working as a celebrity outside?" After learning that Jiang Qianxia was actually a minor celebrity, the young ladies eagerly asked her if the entertainment industry was fun, with some even expressing a desire to venture into it with her. For the first time, Jiang Qianxia felt a bit embarrassed to the point of curling her toes. She thought her role model image was probably about to collapse. Sure enough, one of the young ladies hesitated and shook her head uncertainly. "Something's off. I remember that celebrity had quite a bit of bad press. If they really looked like you, who would have the heart to smear them?" Her words immediately caught everyone's attention. Soon, everyone saw Jiang Qianxia's scandals. Just as Jiang Qianxia was considering whether to slip away, the sister group had already unanimously looked at her with a "what a coincidence" expression. A sister shyly tucked her hair behind her ear. "I was worried that you might see our social media accounts and think less of us, but it turns out you're one of us. That makes things easier." Seeing Jiang Qianxia's slightly awkward expression, everyone eagerly showed her their social media accounts. After Jiang Qianxia glanced through them one by one, she was even more speechless. Well, it turns out everyone's reputation online is about the same. These days, what's trending online, aside from celebrities and internet influencers, also includes the half-true, half-fake circles of the wealthy. As luck would have it, these individuals are all verified top figures in the flaunting wealth and beauty circles. Their family backgrounds have been thoroughly exposed, and even the scandals surrounding Zhuang Hanfei are flying everywhere, making it hard to distinguish truth from fiction. Some say her family is on the verge of collapse, and she chose to endure humiliation after her husband cheated. Others spread rumors that their wealthy marriage is devoid of love, with the couple each doing their own thing. Jiang Qianxia quietly watched them enthusiastically follow her Weibo, almost able to foresee a new wave of trending topics about to emerge. Seeing everyone's eager expressions, she couldn't help but feel a sense of delight. She was truly grateful to Zhuang Hanfei for introducing her to so many sisters. After some thought, she decided to pull Zhuang Hanfei aside. In the original storyline, both she and Zhuang Hanfei were malicious stepmothers, while she, as a minor villainous stepmother who abused the antagonist, was just a small cannon fodder. Zhuang Hanfei, who had mistreated both the male and female leads, was destined to meet a tragic end as a major cannon fodder. But she felt that Zhuang Hanfei didn't seem like the kind of person who would do such a thing. Therefore, even if the plot might have changed, she still decided to tell Zhuang Hanfei something to try to prevent her from accidentally stepping into the plot's minefield. Seeing Jiang Qianxia acting all mysterious and hesitant to speak, Zhuang Hanfei thought for a moment and asked, "Qianxia, is there something something you want to tell me? Jiang Qianxia nodded and said straightforwardly, actually, I can tell fortunes. Zhuang Hanfei was stunned, not expecting this to be what she wanted to say. However, after spending time with her tonight, she felt that Jiang Qianxia didn't seem to be joking. She thought seriously for 2 seconds and asked, Qianxia, did you find out something that you can't tell me directly? It's okay if that's the case. Jiang Qianxia hadn't expected her to be so clever, actually guessing the secret she might reveal, but the fact that she could tell fortunes was indeed true. Sighing, she decided not to explain the fortune-telling matter and instead followed Zhuang Hanfei's train of thought. Actually, I saw President Fu with a woman and a child together. As soon as she said this, Zhuang Hanfei's expression didn't show any surprise, but Jiang Qianxia knew she assumed she was talking about Fu Hingyu being with a mistress and an illegitimate child. She had to add, that little girl is about the same age as Xiaoya and attends the same kindergarten as him. However, it seems that President Fu is pursuing the little girl's mother. In the original storyline, the male lead's scumbag father had a one-sided crush on the little female lead's mother. From the protagonist's perspective, the female lead's mother was innocent, and the main issue was the scumbag father's excessive fawning. Therefore, Jiang Qianxia temporarily framed her words to align with the original plot, leaving the specifics for Zhuang Hanfei to discover on her own. Hearing this, Zhuang Hanfei showed a stunned expression and then burst into laughter. Ha! Are you saying that Fu Hingyu's true love isn't that mistress? Ha ha ha. He thinks he's an emperor, pulling off this whole decoy act. Zhuang Hanfei laughed so hard she was doubled over, tears streaming from her eyes. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with her soft fingertips and looked at Jiang Qianxia again, noticing her conflicted expression. Zhuang Hanfei immediately realized she hadn't concealed her true emotions, put away her smile, and once again said to Jiang Qianxia, thank you, Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia noticed her slightly reddened eyes, turned around, and poured a cup of hot water to hand to her. Zhuang Hanfei took a sip, and her mood gradually calmed down. She found Jiang Qianxia to be quite remarkable. Despite her stunning beauty, she possessed a calming aura that could put people at ease. Suddenly, she felt an urge to confide. Actually, I have a very strong personality. I got together with Fu Hingyu through a family-arranged blind date. We were well-matched in terms of family background and experiences, and we quickly got married. After marriage, our relationship was decent. Though not sweet, it was much better than that of most wealthy couples. Zhuang Hanfei gave a bitter smile. Of course, it can't compare to you two. Jiang Qianxia, no, we don't even count as a couple. But she chose to remain silent, quietly listening to Zhuang Hanfei's confessions. Zhuang Hanfei's gaze drifted into the distance. When I suspected Fu Hingyu might be cheating, I found evidence on his phone at 2 in the morning, and the next day I quietly investigated the mistress's identity. She let out a cold laugh. What I discovered was that not only did Fu Hingyu have a mistress, but he also had an illegitimate child. Based on the timeline, the child was conceived during the period when our relationship was at its most harmonious after marriage. She turned to look at Jiang Qianxia, her pale smile tinged with despair. I was completely shattered at the time, not because of love, but because I was disgusted. I chose Fu Hingyu because he was one of the rare ones in the circle who kept himself clean. I must have been blind. Jiang Qianxia saw her emotional turmoil and comforted her. This isn't about your judgment. Fu Hingyu hit it very well. He indeed kept himself clean, but that was because he always had the heroine's mother in his heart, believing he would never see that girl again in this lifetime, which led to his marriage. After marriage, he might have wanted to live a good life, as his heart was already dead. But then he encountered a mistress who resembled his true love, and his heart became half dead, half alive. Jiang Qianxia thought of what she had seen in her divination and said seriously, Fu Hingyu will regret letting you down, and you will meet someone better. Zhuang Hanfei assumed Jiang Qianxia was just comforting her, smiled, and raised her glass of plain water as a toast to Jiang Qianxia. Then I'll take your kind words to heart. Jiang Qianxia affirmed, your true destiny might already be here. Zhuang Hanfei smiled contentedly, her tone also becoming more relaxed. It's fine now, really fine, but at the time, I just couldn't take it anymore. I filed for divorce, and guess what happened? Jiang Qianxia cooperatively showed a questioning expression. What happened? Fu Hingyu actually disagreed. Zhuang Hanfei sneered. After discovering that I had thoroughly investigated his affair, Fu Hingyu admitted it, trying to argue that it was a mistake. He claimed that the woman was innocent and that he had to take responsibility for this mistake, insisting that the child wouldn't affect our marriage. Knowing he couldn't stop me, the entire Fu family got involved. Mentioning her in-laws, Zhuang Hanfei's expression turned cold as well. As for me, I care about saving face. They all know I don't want to make a big scene, so the whole family took turns harassing me. I pretended to agree not to divorce for the time being. Then I found that mistress and discovered she had always known Fu Hingyu was married. I was disgusted again when I saw the illegitimate child. Noticing how much she cared about her son, I told her that if she couldn't secure her position, her son would live in obscurity for his entire life. Jiang Qianxia understood. You want her to pester Fu Hingyu for a divorce? Zhuang Hanfei nodded. Yes, but it seems her efforts weren't enough. She actually took no action, so I went to scare her. I told her that I happened to want to maintain my figure, and since the Fu family wanted another child, for the sake of the child, she could send her son back to the Fu family. However, the blame for the affair would be placed on her son. As she spoke, Zhuang Hanfei's expression unexpectedly turned proud. Sure enough, she went to complain to Fu Hingyu. Jiang Qianxia looked at her proud little expression and thought to herself, no wonder you ended up as a major cannon fodder. Your childhood trauma for the male lead seems even bigger than mine. Speaking of the outcome, Zhuang Hanfei's gaze immediately dimmed, clenching her teeth in fury. Fu Hingyu actually managed to appease that mistress. I suspect that those two scoundrels want me to be a part of their game, so I also. As she spoke, her expression became slightly unnatural. Jiang Qianxia casually asked, you joined the game too? A suspicious blush appeared on Zhuang Hanfei's face. She wanted to deny it, but when her eyes met Jiang Qianxia's sharp gaze, she couldn't help but nod. She was silent for 2 seconds, skipped the details, and went straight to the point. And then, sure enough, you only realize the pain when the knife is in you. That bastard Fu Hingyu actually doesn't want to be a cuckold and wants a divorce. I was originally aiming for a divorce and deliberately provoked him for a while. In the end, we just went to get divorced together. But Zhuang Hanfei's Hanfei's eyes revealed a hint of contemplation. She once again looked gratefully at Jiang Qianxia and said, perhaps I should thank you for telling me this. Maybe Fu Hingyu wants a divorce not because he doesn't want to be a cuckold. She didn't elaborate further, but a trace of excitement flashed in her eyes as she said with determination, I need to investigate this thoroughly. Once I get to the bottom of it, I might even be able to scrape a layer of skin off that dog Fu. Just wait and see. When the time comes, your big sister will reward you handsomely. Zhuang Hanfei threw a flirtatious glance at Jiang Qianxia, instantly regaining her bold and dashing demeanor as she stood up and strode away. Let's go. They must be getting impatient. As she spoke, she suddenly remembered, are you going to pick up your son? I'll go with you. Just now, Situ Xiaoya had been picked up by someone sent by Zhu Qing. Thinking that the little one still had kindergarten tomorrow, Jiang Qianxia nodded and was about to head out, but noticed that Zhuang Hanfei suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her expression was somewhat peculiar. Suddenly, she stepped back, pulling Jiang Qianxia with her, and with a bang, retreated into the room, leaning against the door to hold it tightly shut. Jiang Qianxia didn't see anything outside the door, only caught a glimpse of a tall figure flashing by. After 2 minutes, Zhuang Hanfei took a deep breath and looked at Jiang Qianxia awkwardly. There's someone I'd rather not run into. Jiang Qianxia instantly understood and nodded. The one you played with. Zhuang Hanfei's face instantly turned red, looking deflated as she stared at Jiang Qianxia. Qianxia, how can someone with your looks be so smart? Jiang Qianxia smiled lightly. Maybe I'm not smart, I just have a knack for reading people. I think the played person you're talking about is your new connection. Impossible. Zhuang Hanfei denied it without hesitation, then realized her reaction was a bit too intense. She cleared her throat, her gaze wandering, and said softly, it's really impossible. He is Fu Hingyu's cousin. Jiang Qianxia blinked. What's wrong with that? He's young. I think he might even be taller than Fu Hingyu, and he's stronger. Zhuang Hanfei widened her eyes in shock, as if she had thought of something, couldn't help but nod slightly, and then suddenly raised her head. How did you know that? Jiang Qianxia, awkward. Ever since her fortune-telling skills leveled up, they had become almost too accurate. However, faced with Zhuang Hanfei's heartfelt questioning, she had nothing to hide. After all, this identity would be revealed sooner or later. So she honestly said, because I can tell fortunes. I figured it out. And I can even predict when you two will have a child. MMPH. Shoo. Before Jiang Qianxia could finish her sentence, Zhuang Hanfei, her face flushed with embarrassment, covered her mouth. Stop talking. Anyway, it's impossible between him and me. First of all, our families would never agree. I wouldn't elope for love. A trace of teasing flashed in Jiang Qianxia's eyes, and she thought to herself that this was hard to say. Seeing that Zhuang Hanfei hadn't gotten over the hurdle in her heart, she decided not to speak her true thoughts. Zhuang Hanfei adjusted her clothes, reapplied her lipstick, and then reopened the door. Seeing the empty hallway, she felt an inexplicable sense of loss but also breathed a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to turn back and say something to Jiang Qianxia, a tall figure suddenly appeared from outside. Is my cousin-in-law looking for me? Zhuang Hanfei instantly froze. Normally, she would have pulled this person aside for a scolding, but now, with Jiang Qianxia, who knew this person's identity, standing behind her, she didn't dare imagine how she could face Jiang Qianxia after pulling this person away in front of her. Fortunately, at that moment, a waiter came over. The waiter found Jiang Qianxia and told her that Zhu Qing asked her to pick up Situ Xiaoya. Jiang Qianxia and Zhuang Hanfei both breathed a sigh of relief and bid each other a considerate farewell. Zhuang Hanfei finally felt at ease and dragged the man aside to give him a scolding. However, when Jiang Qianxia found Zhu Qing, she discovered that Situ Xiaoya was not there. Beside her was only an elegant and wealthy lady who looked somewhat familiar. The corners of her mouth drooped slightly as she glanced at Jiang Qianxia, then turned to look at Zhu Qing. Your daughter-in-law is quite good-looking. Zhu Qing curled her lips. What's the use of being good-looking? As she spoke, her voice was unrestrained. She looked toward Jiang Qianxia and asked, when did you and Xiao Zhuang meet? Jiang Qianxia saw these two calling her over, acting as if they were empress dowagers interrogating her, with quite an air of superiority, and they looked her up and down with disdain. Moreover, they had sent the attendant away, clearly intending to discuss something that couldn't be overheard. Thinking of this, Jiang Qianxia knew exactly how to provoke these two old ladies. Without changing her expression, she walked over and signaled to the nearby attendant to pour her some water. Then she casually found a comfortable spot to sit down and innocently asked, who is Xiao Zhuang? The wealthy lady beside Zhu Qing was momentarily stunned by Jiang Qianxia's demeanor. Zhu Qing suddenly recalled the incident when Jiang Qianxia had gone mad over the phone last time, and a faint sense of guilt crept into her heart, suppressing her initial urge to lose her temper. She introduced, this is Mrs. Fu, Xiao Zhuang's mother-in-law. Jiang Qianxia mimicked the wealthy lady's gaze, sizing her up in return, and smiled as she nodded. You do indeed look quite wealthy. However, this is the first time I've met someone who refers to themselves as poor lady or wealthy lady. Mrs. Fu's expression subtly changed. Zhu Qing was so angry that the wine in her glass almost spilled out. Jiang Qianxia, watch your status. Jiang Qianxia glanced at Zhu Qing with a faint smile and said coldly, I know, if I don't watch my status, you'll. Zhu Qing's heart tightened, fearing that Jiang Qianxia would say something outrageous again. Shut up. I called you over to ask you something serious. Jiang Qianxia was also worried that the other party might faint again from anger, so she restrained herself a little. After all, this wasn't the Situ family. Moreover, Xiao Zhuang, Mrs. Fu, aren't they referring to Zhuang Hanfei's mother-in-law? Zhuang Hanfei and Fu Hingyu are getting a divorce? What does she want from me? Seeing Jiang Qianxia calm down, Zhu Qing couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and said seriously, Xiao Zhuang, that's Zhuang Hanfei. Afraid that Jiang Qianxia might cause trouble again, she quickly explained, you two are friends, right? There are some things you could help persuade her about, just for her own good. Jiang Qianxia was completely puzzled. Persuade her to get a divorce early? Fly away with the young boy? Or is it that the Fu family is worried that Zhuang Hanfei might actually end up with Fu Hingyu's cousin, which would be a bit embarrassing for their reputation? She never expected that Zhu Qing would actually say, for families like ours, it's absolutely unacceptable not to have an heir. Huh? Jiang Qianxia was almost about to make a confused face. What? These two want her to persuade Zhuang Hanfei to have a child? But Zhuang Hanfei and Fu Hingyu are already divorced. Could it be that the Fu family still doesn't know? So, the Fu family actually disagrees with their divorce. Jiang Qianxia blinked and decided to help Shuang Hanfei cover it up. She cleared her throat lightly and said, having a child is everyone's personal choice. I have no right to persuade anyone. Zhu Qing's expression turned somewhat unpleasant upon hearing this, while Mrs. Fu's eyes flickered. She suddenly smiled at Jiang Qianxia. Yes, Xiao Jiang is right. I've thought it through as well. If Hanfei doesn't want to have children, I agree. As she spoke, her round, plump hand adorned with jewelry held a wine glass. She took a sip, her smile growing even more pronounced. She seemed to be yielding. I'm not an unreasonable person. If she doesn't want to have children for the sake of her figure, I won't force her. But our families Hingyu can't go without a child forever, so let's compromise. I can accept them adopting a child as a couple. So, Xiao Jiang, you have a good relationship with Hanfei. I, on the other hand, can't bring myself to say it, so I want to ask you to help me speak on my behalf. Jiang Qianxia frowned. Speak for what? These two old women really think of themselves as empress dowagers. They actually have that kind of idea. They were talking about adoption, referring to that illegitimate child, right? What? Mrs. Fu was stunned, looking at Jiang Qianxia in disbelief. The words young Jiang had just said echoed in her ears, as if she couldn't believe it. Zhu Qing, standing nearby, was equally shocked. Both of them, as elders of significant status and position, had not encountered such an unrestrained tone in years. Her heart tightened as she recalled Jiang Qianxia's frantic phone call last time. She couldn't help but worry that if Jiang lost control again, she would be utterly humiliated in front of Mrs. Fu. Taking a deep breath, Zhu Qing fixed Jiang Qianxia with an oppressive gaze. Jiang Qianxia, do you know what you're saying? Apologize to Mrs. Fu immediately. Otherwise, I'll have to ask Jiang Tao and Zhang Rulan how they raised you. After speaking, Zhu Qing shot Jiang Qianxia a fierce glare before turning to Mrs. Fu, slightly bowing to apologize. She's not usually under my care. Please excuse her behavior. The implication was clear. Jiang Qianxia's actions were entirely due to the Jiang family's poor upbringing and had nothing to do with her. Mrs. Fu frowned, looking at Jiang Qianxia with disdain. Your background as a daughter-in-law is quite complicated. I heard old Fu mention it before, and I must say, it's really not something to be admired. Zhu Qing nodded in agreement. Ah, yes, I was against her entering the family from the start. You know, the old man. Jiang Qianxia watched their back and forth and couldn't help but feel speechless. She nodded lightly. Indeed, my upbringing isn't very good. After a pause, she slightly raised her voice. However, it seems the two of you don't hear very well either. Just now, I said, shut up. As soon as the words were spoken, even Mrs. Fu, who usually maintained her composure, couldn't help but show her displeasure. She immediately pulled a long face and looked at Zhu Qing with a sarcastic tone. Zhu Qing, I must say, you as a daughter-in-law are really too rude. I am an elder, after all. It's just a small request, and even if you don't agree, you shouldn't speak like that. Zhu Qing gritted her teeth in anger, her heart burning with fury. After all, Jiang Qianxia's retort wasn't just directed at Mrs. Fu but also at her, the mother-in-law. It was simply outrageous. She wished she could rush up and tear Jiang Qianxia's mouth apart, but she couldn't act too excessively in front of Mrs. Fu. Otherwise, who knows what kind of rumors might spread in this wealthy circle. Moreover, Mrs. Fu, besides being a gossip, was particularly vindictive. Now that she hadn't been able to help and had instead been offended by a junior, who knows what nonsense she might spread everywhere. Mrs. Fu could criticize Jiang Qianxia all she wanted, and she had no objections. But now that Jiang Qianxia was her daughter-in-law, if word got out, would she have anything good to say? Thinking of this, Zhu Qing felt regretful, her chest aching with anger, and she regretted agreeing to Mrs. Fu's request so casually. But now that things have come to this, she can only find a way to shut Mrs. Fu's mouth. She suppressed her anger, her gaze slightly unnatural. I see you've been getting along well with Xiaoya recently, so you must understand the benefits of having a child, right? You're so close to Xiao Zhuang, why not persuade her? Mrs. Fu, who was standing nearby, saw Zhu Qing holding back her temper to speak on her behalf, and her expression softened slightly. She added, that's right. I've already met that child. I heard your Xiaoya is a little prodigy, and that child is also very smart. By then, the two children could even be companions. Absolutely not. Jiang Qianxia quickly frowned and gave Zhu Qing a strange look. Now she could almost be certain that Zhu Qing, this foolish old woman, had been tricked by Mrs. Fu, allowing the son of the mistress to be playmates with her precious grandson. Yet she still hadn't realized it. She probably had no idea what Mrs. Fu had asked her to help with, right? Mrs. Fu was interrupted and felt displeased, but instinctively, she didn't want to argue with Jiang Qianxia. Instead, she looked at Zhu Qing with dissatisfaction, waiting for her to speak. Zhu Qing naturally spoke as she wished. What's been going on with you lately? Zhu Qing's gaze was full of scrutiny. Originally, after that phone call last time left her fuming, she had planned to deal with this unruly person. But unexpectedly, what happened with Aunt Lu afterward left her feeling uncertain and hesitant to trouble Jiang Qianxia again. Now, what exactly is going on? Although she still enjoys opposing her, it somehow feels even more infuriating than before. The most infuriating thing is that Jiang Qianxia remained calm and composed, completely unaffected. Jiang Qianxia hadn't expected that the first person to notice her change would be this wealthy mother-in-law who had always disliked the original host. Is this the legendary saying that your enemy often understands you the best? However, Jiang Qianxia still maintained a serious demeanor and calmly accepted Zhu Qing's scrutiny. She would never believe that Zhu Qing could figure out she had swapped souls. Sure enough, Zhu Qing was just speaking casually. Faced with this tough and unpleasant obstacle, Mrs. Fu's mood instantly sank to rock bottom. She waved her hand, her shimmering wrist betraying a hint of impatience. Forget it, forget it. The younger generation these days is truly uncontrollable. Zhu Qing, standing to the side, sneered inwardly, imagining how Mrs. Fu would badmouth her in front of other wealthy ladies in the same social circle, her face darkened and unwilling to say more. However, when they all fell silent, Jiang Qianxia couldn't help but speak up. Seeing that she wasn't leaving, Zhu Qing's eyelids drooped, and she said somewhat wearily, what, you don't want to keep chatting with us two old ladies, do you? Jiang Qianxia cleared her throat lightly, her gaze resolute. Yes. Zhu Qing raised her eyelids in surprise, staring at her with a face full of confusion. What else do you want to say? say. Jiang Qianxiao lifted her elegant neck, maintaining a composed demeanor, and said slowly, I've thought about it, and what you said makes a lot of sense. So, the gaze of the two mothers-in-law was instantly drawn to her by the pause in her tone, looking at her in confusion. Then, her luscious red lips uttered words that they would never forget. Mrs. Fu, why don't you first bring home the illegitimate children your husband fathered outside? After all, they are your family's bloodline, and it's quite pitiful for them to be left out in the cold. Mrs. Fu's face suddenly changed, and she shouted angrily, shut up. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhu Qing was initially shocked, but then she realized why Jiang Qianxiao was acting so recklessly. It seems the problem lies right here. She looked in shock at the furious Mrs. Fu, took a sharp breath, and was about to speak, but unexpectedly, Jiang Qianxiao did not let her off the hook. And you, mother-in-law, you seem to enjoy advising people to raise illegitimate children. Jiang Qianxiao's words were like a thunderclap, leaving Zhu Qing's heart in agony. What on earth is this wretch talking about? Her greatest pride in life was her husband's loyalty and her eldest son's achievements. Now, her eldest son was gone, and her husband had only her. If this country bumpkin dared to slander her recklessly, she would never let her off easily. Fortunately, Jiang Qianxia took a deep breath and calmly asked, why not try persuading your sister first? Zhu Qing, who had just relaxed a bit, suddenly tensed up again. She widened her eyes and pointed at Jiang Qianxia, shouting angrily, what nonsense are you spouting? Zhu Qing has a younger sister, with quite a significant age gap, who could be considered her pampered little sister. Ever since Zhu Qing married into the Sidu family, the Zhu family rose to prominence. Coincidentally, Zhu Qing found her ideal husband, and after carefully selecting within the elite circles, she finally found a steady and reliable man for her sister who wasn't into frivolous pursuits. Although her brother-in-law didn't inherit the family business and only works as a professor at a university, the couple enjoys dividends from family shares and receives subsidies from Zhu Qing as the elder sister, leading a rather comfortable life. The only issue is that her sister's health isn't very good. After giving birth to a daughter, her brother-in-law, feeling sorry for her, firmly refused to have another child. But it was precisely this point that made Zhu Qing even more satisfied. A gentle and modest man like her brother-in-law was the perfect match for her sister. Zhu Qing wanted to say, how could her brother-in-law possibly have an illegitimate child? But when she met Jiang Qianxia's serious gaze, she began to feel uneasy and decided to investigate privately. At this moment, she suddenly remembered Mrs. Fu, who was equally shocked by Jiang Qianxia's words, and couldn't help but call out her name. Min Qin, what on earth is going on here? Min Qin's face changed instantly when Zhu Qing shouted at her. With a stern expression, she retorted, I was about to ask you the same thing. What's going on with your daughter-in-law? Spreading nonsense about Zhu Man. However, Zhu Qing didn't fall for Mrs. Fu's instigation at all. With a dark expression, she let out a cold laugh. Don't play dumb with me. Over the years, who doesn't know about old Fu's romantic escapades in your family? If she's talking nonsense, I'll naturally deal with her. What I'm asking is, what's this about adopting an illegitimate child? Upon hearing this, Mrs. Fu's gaze immediately became evasive. She stammered in defense, what illegitimate child? Having known Mrs. Fu for so many years, how could Zhu Qing not understand what her reaction meant? So it was true. She really had the nerve. Zhu Qing was so furious that her chest felt tight. Pointing at Mrs. Fu, she gritted her teeth and said, are you out of your mind? You actually want your daughter-in-law to adopt your son's illegitimate child? Aren't you afraid the Zhuang family will find out and come after you? The daughter of the Zhuang family is nothing like this neglected one in her family. Those two have always doted on their daughter as if she were their life. Being stared at by Zhu Qing with a look that screamed fool, and with Zhu Qing's daughter-in-law watching the drama unfold with glowing eyes from the side, Mrs. Fu's initial guilt was gradually replaced by dissatisfaction, and she retorted confidently, why should I be afraid of the Zhuang family? She doesn't want to have children herself, and she's shameless. Am I not allowed to bring the only bloodline of the Fu family back home? Hearing Mrs. Fu call Zhuang Hanfei shameless, Jiang Qianxiao's gaze darkened, and she sneered coldly from the side. Well, at least she didn't cheat and have an illegitimate child. Now that's shameless. Mrs. Fu glared at Jiang Qianxia, realizing why the other party was so hostile the moment she opened her mouth. So that cheap woman Zhuang Hanfei had spilled everything. She already knew the child she was talking about was Hengyu's bloodline. Since everyone already knows, Mrs. Fu simply laid it out. Even if that's the case, so what? Can women be the same as men? Jiang Qianxia originally wanted to message Zhuang Hanfei to ask about this matter, but considering that Zhuang Hanfei was secretly going through the divorce process and might find Mrs. Fu troublesome, she decided not to disturb Zhuang Hanfei's meeting with her young lover for now. Now seeing Mrs. Fu speaking so righteously about this, she chuckled. Mrs. Fu is absolutely right. Mrs. Fu was ready to deliver a forceful lecture, but she hadn't expected Jiang Qianxia to agree with her. She looked at her in surprise and doubt, only to suddenly meet those smiling almond-shaped eyes. Her heart tightened, and she inexplicably wanted to cover that mouth that kept opening and closing, but it was already too late. Jiang Qianxia nodded in strong agreement. A woman cheating is different from a man cheating. After all, if a woman cheats and gets pregnant, she can openly give birth to the child, and the husband wouldn't even know. Mrs. Fu's pupils shrank sharply. Crash! The wine glass in her hand fell to the ground. A nearby servant, who had been sent away to avoid overhearing the conversation, noticed and was about to come over to inquire. Suddenly, Mrs. Fu snapped back to her senses and sharply stopped him. Don't come over. The servant was startled and dared not approach. Mrs. Fu looked at Jiang Qianxia with a gaze full of shock and fear. What nonsense are you spouting? Zhu Qing, standing to the side, was completely stunned, her eyes wide open as she looked incredulously at the blustering Mrs. Fu. Min Qin, you. Shut up. Zhu Qing, you'd better keep your daughter-in-law in check. If she dares to speak nonsense, I'll make sure you face the consequences. is. Mrs. Fu's thunderous roar struck directly at Zhu Qing's heart. Zhu Qing fell silent instantly, thinking to herself that this reaction was truly unexpected. In her youth, she and Min Qin were the two most dazzling figures in their circle, the wives of two prominent families. The reputation of the Sidu family surpassed that of the Fu family, but Min Qin's family background was even more distinguished. Precisely because of this, she agreed to let Min Qin bring Jiang Qianxia over, secretly feeling smug and wanting to prove that her current status was higher than Min Qin's. However, she never expected to cause such a big mess. Watching Min Qin hurriedly leave her seat, her increasingly plump figure appearing both angry and flustered, Zhu Qing felt a chill surge in her heart. She looked at Jiang Qianxia in confusion. How do you know about these things? Jiang Qianxia watched Mrs. Fu leave in a rush and thought to herself that she definitely wouldn't have time to focus on Zhuang Hanfei's divorce now. Then, she turned to look at the much more subdued Zhu Qing. I guessed. Zhu Qing was emotionally stirred by suddenly learning so many secrets and had yet to calm down. She couldn't spare the energy to reprimand Jiang Qianxia, her daughter-in-law, for her rudeness. Her expression softened slightly, and she cleared her throat. Tell me quickly about your uncle's matter. Before finishing her sentence, she felt she had lost the dignity of a mother-in-law and hurriedly warned Jiang Qianxia with her eyes. If you can't provide evidence, I'll immediately go to the Jiang family to ask how you were taught. In this kind of situation, your elder brother will definitely be present. Jiang Qianxia had intended to get up and leave, but suddenly her eyes flickered, and she sat back down. Well, it's possible, but I usually charge a fee. Zhu Qing was stunned. What? Jiang Qianxia leaned half-heartedly against the chair and casually repeated, I charge for answering these kinds of questions. Zhu Qing hadn't misheard. She simply hadn't expected Jiang Qianxia to say such a thing. Instantly, she took a deep breath, so furious she almost exploded. This young girl actually dared to talk money with her, the mother-in-law. How utterly ridiculous. Zhu Qing clutched her chest in anger, pointing at Jiang Qianxia. Jiang Qianxia, can you be a little more respectable? Jiang Qianxia, however, demonstrated with her actions that she certainly could. She suddenly stood up, making a move to leave. Zhu Qing was so furious she almost exploded. Stop right there. Jiang Qianxia was already prepared, immediately stopped, turned around, and sat back, putting on the appearance of an obedient daughter-in-law. Zhu Qing was so angry that her chest tightened. You. She hesitated for a moment, suppressing her anger, and finally lowered her voice to say, fine, speak properly. The benefits will naturally include you. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Jiang Qianxia looked at her with an expression full of anticipation. Zhu Qing was so furious she was about to lose her mind, pointing at Jiang Qianxia and trembling. Do you think I would renege on my debt? Jiang Qianxia thought about it and, actually, she didn't. This wealthy mother-in-law had been fairly generous to the original owner when it came to money, as it concerned her own reputation. During the wedding, everything that should have been given was given, and even the marital home was registered under both their names. Although she was dissatisfied with her daughter-in-law, she couldn't afford to lose the reputation of being the first lady of a wealthy family, so she didn't skimp on what she should give. But for some reason, Jiang Qianxia just wanted to annoy her. Zhu Qing had no choice but to call her assistant with a dark expression and ask them to transfer a sum of money to Jiang Qianxia. When Jiang Qianxia received the notification of the deposit, her eyes immediately lit up. I have to say, a wealthy mother-in-law's love for saving face is truly a good thing. Zhu Qing actually gave her a full 5 million. Seeing her looking as if she had never seen money before, Zhu Qing felt a mix of oddness and satisfaction in her heart, muttering, just how badly has the Jiang family treated you? It's like you've never seen money before. As she spoke, she suddenly recalled Jiang Qianxia's defiant demeanor, quickly stopped herself, assumed the posture of a mother-in-law, and looked at her. Tell me everything you know in detail. If I find out you're trying to fool me, you know the consequences. After saying this, Zhu Qing regretted her harsh tone a little, as she had already had enough of Jiang Qianxia's rebellious attitude. Unexpectedly, this time Jiang Qianxia didn't resist and instead nodded politely and appropriately. Then she revealed a professional smile. Alright, mother-in-law, where would you like to start? Is it about why uncle-in-law cheated? Or where uncle-in-law's child outside is? Or perhaps, something else? Anything is fine. Zhu Qing, her face turned pale, then flushed, then pale again, and after a long while, she managed to squeeze out a sentence. Just tell me everything you know. According to the timeline, Jiang Qianxia nodded readily, her red lips slightly parted. The thing is, before meeting my aunt, my uncle-in-law had a deeply unforgettable white moonlight, but due to her poor family background, the relationship was interfered with by his family. Jiang Qianxia's first sentence immediately caused Zhu Qing's expression to change. She knew about this. Her brother-in-law had been in a relationship during high school, but who hasn't fallen in love a few times when they were young? Her younger sister had also been in a relationship early on, but for some reason, Jiang Qianxia's gaze made her unable to argue. Jiang Qianxia continued, after being interfered with, my uncle-in-law never contacted his first love again and has since locked his heart away. Zhu Qing's expression began to turn grim. Until meeting aunt, Zhu Qing's expression slightly softened. The two quickly fell in love and soon got married. After marriage, they were always sweet. Until, Zhu Qing's heart tightened again. She clutched her chest, unable to bear Jiang Qianxia's roller coaster style of narration. Speak properly to me. Jiang Qianxia shrugged. Alright then. She sighed and spread her hands. Until my aunt had an affair and was caught by my uncle. Zhu Qing had already prepared herself to hear some shocking news, but she was still stunned. Zhu Man lacked decisiveness and usually relied on her elder sister to make decisions on major matters. For something this significant, there was no way she wouldn't know. Zhu Qing was incredulous, her eyes widening. What nonsense are you spouting again? Weren't we talking about your uncle? You're blatantly slandering an elder, and I really have to. Halfway through her sentence, she met Jiang Qianxia's unwavering gaze, felt a pang in her heart, and abruptly changed her tone. Go on, I want to see what else you can say. Jiang Qianxia returned her a justified and confident look. Didn't Aunt also have a white moonlight that you interfered with? As soon as Jiang Qianxia Qianxia finished speaking, Zhu Qing's pupils trembled. How do you know that? Jiang Qianxia quietly looked at Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing realized she was undoubtedly revealing her secret. She quickly restrained her shock, raised an eyebrow, and asked in confusion, who told you? Even her son couldn't possibly know about this. Jiang Qianxia thought about the 5 million she had just received and said bluntly, actually, I can tell fortunes. Zhu Qing sneered coldly, clearly not believing it. She let out a frosty hum. Forget it. If you don't want to say it, there's no need to lie. Continue talking about the affair. The root cause of Zhu Man's affair was that she had always been overly protected by her elder sister, leading to an overly comfortable married life. She encountered her, once forced to break up, down and out first love, and instantly attributed all the mistakes to herself. After all, during their time of love, that young man was full of ambition and vigor. However, time flies, and the once-spirited young man had now become a carefree drifter. When he spoke of the past, his eyes were calm and indifferent, yet seemed to hide a trace of regret. She inadvertently learned that back then, her first love had sacrificed so much to gain her family's approval, missing countless opportunities, and ultimately could only pin his dreams on seeing the lights of 10,000 homes. As long as one of them is yours, that's enough. This simple sentence moved Zhu Man so deeply that she almost wanted to divorce immediately and elope with him, but he refused. After her pleading, he stayed in the city, and at her request, he had no choice but to accept all kinds of compensation from her. Hearing this, Zhu Qing's face instantly turned ashen, and she couldn't help but curse angrily, that shameless bastard. I gave him a choice back then. After speaking, Zhu Qing noticed Jiang Qianxia suddenly staring at her with a gossipy look. She wanted to stop herself but didn't want to leave the impression of breaking up a couple in front of this daughter-in-law she disapproved of. She snorted coldly, back then, I gave him a sum of money and let him choose between Man or the money. He chose. That scumbag chose to take the money and leave, which Jiang Qianxia, of course, already knew. Watching Zhu Qing fuming with anger, she couldn't help but find this agreed yet furious expression absolutely hilarious. Zhu Qing immediately saw through what Jiang Qianxia wanted to say, quickly shut her mouth, and urged her with her eyes to continue. Jiang Qianxia didn't hesitate and continued, that playboy first love completely manipulated Zhu Man, first by playing the victim, then seducing her. Using the excuse of being drunk, he half-coaxed and half-lured her into cheating. Originally, his plan was to quietly keep Zhu Man under control, and ideally, get her pregnant. Once she divorced, would the Zhu family reject him? Even if Zhu Man didn't divorce, with his child in the picture, her wealthy husband would end up raising his son, and Zhu Man would support him. Isn't that a sweet deal? But unexpectedly, during their first real encounter, Zhu Man's husband caught them red-handed, right in bed. In fact, Zhu Man's husband had already been suspicious and was investigating the matter. He discovered that the playboy was nothing but a fraud and was preparing to present the evidence to Zhu Man. However, he was 2 days late, and by then, the clothes were already off. Zhu Man's husband was furious and immediately threw the evidence onto the bed where they were caught in the act. The cheating couple's reaction was to kneel and beg for forgiveness. Zhu Man, who wasn't thinking clearly, naturally did the same. Moreover, she feared her sister finding out about her disgraceful actions even more than she feared divorce. If the matter spread, even her sister would face criticism. At that time, her nephew had just encountered trouble, and Zhu Qing had recently been through a shock. Zhu Man didn't dare to confess and desperately begged her husband, swallowing her pride and agreeing to his demand for a one-time affair in return. So, Zhu Man's husband also went to find her first love. Zhu Man didn't dare to oppose, and fortunately, that first love wasn't a good person either. It turned out that the supposedly innocent first love wasn't forced away by Zhu Man's husband's family, but rather left upon discovering that her husband wasn't the heir to the family fortune and could only receive a small share of dividends. After leaving, she married a much older wealthy businessman. When Zhu Man's husband found her, she was completely unrecognizable. Not only had she undergone plastic surgery to have a tech face, but her personality had also changed entirely. She was tenderly fussing over a rich man with a beer belly larger than a full-term pregnancy, a far cry from the once proud girl who treated money as dirt. Having suffered 2 betrayals in a row, Zhu Man's husband spiraled into despair and began frequenting places of debauchery. However, since there were too many people in the area trying to curry favor with the Sidhu family, he didn't dare stay there any longer. He applied for an academic exchange and left for another city for 6 months. When he returned, he seemed to have reverted to being a refined gentleman, appearing to have calmed down. Zhu Man didn't dare to ask about what had happened during those 6 months. Little did she know that a few months later, someone would show up with a child, looking for her husband. The more Zhu Qing listened, the darker her expression became. And then, he just kept raising that child? Jiang Qianxia nodded. Zhu Qing was both angry and heartbroken. Does Man also know about this child? Jiang Qianxia shook her head. Zhu Qing felt a sense of relief, but her heart ached even more for her sister. The problem was, Zhu Man was the one who had been foolish first, making this matter truly difficult to handle. Zhu Qing had yet to realize how much she trusted every word Jiang Qianxia said. Clutching her chest, she asked, where is that child being raised? Jiang Qianxia mentioned an address, and Zhu Qing's face immediately darkened again. However, in front of Jiang Qianxia, she said nothing more. Jiang Qianxia knew that the house was the one she had given to Zhu Man. After a moment of silence, Zhu Qing took a deep breath, looked at Jiang Qianxia, and warned, you are not allowed to tell anyone about this, including your husband, understand? Jiang Qianxia nodded. Don't worry, I took the money, and I still have professional ethics. Zhu Qing choked. Seeing Jiang Qianxia about to get up and leave, she added, and, you are not allowed to spread anything about Mrs. Fu. You may not care about your reputation, but the Sidhu family does. Jiang Qianxia nodded repeatedly. All right. Seeing her so obedient, Zhu Qing felt a bit unaccustomed for a moment. However, her younger sister and brother-in-law's affairs were truly too vexing, and her mind was in chaos. She waved her hand at Jiang Qianxia. Go on, don't get in my way anymore. All right. Goodbye, mother-in-law. Jiang Qianxia held the warm 5 million and cheerfully exited the scene. Zhu Qing watched her back and unexpectedly came up with a clever idea to handle this daughter-in-law. Moments later, she shook her head and snapped out of it. Since Mrs. Fu knew the matter she wanted to discuss with Jiang Qianxia was rather unspeakable, she chose a private garden located far from the banquet hall. When Jiang Qianxia returned to the banquet hall, she had to pass through a long corridor. The middle of the corridor led to the side door of the banquet hall, while the end led to the kitchen entrance. She suddenly noticed two figures engaged in conversation. To be precise, it was one person giving a lecture. After the lecture ended, that person nervously turned around to look. Jiang Qianxia instinctively sidestepped to avoid being seen before he turned. Her perception was sharper than that of ordinary people. When she sensed the man turning and heading toward the side door of the banquet hall, Jiang Qianxia quietly peeked out and saw him entering the hall. She glanced toward the end of the corridor, feeling uneasy. This banquet was hosted by Zhao Choutong, and the person who had just been lecturing didn't look like a supervisor based on his attire. He seemed more like a guest. After some thought, Jiang Qianxia decided to look for Zhao Choutong. However, upon returning to the banquet hall, she did not find Zhao Choutong's figure but instead saw the face of the man who had lectured her. That man turned out to be Zhao Choutong's husband, Jing Xiaoyuan. In an instant, alarm bells rang in Jiang Qianxia's heart. She forced herself to stay calm and walked toward Jing Xiaoyuan, finally getting a clear look at his face. The moment she saw that face clearly, Jiang Qianxia's expression turned peculiar. She noticed that the red threads on Jing Xiaoyuan were particularly chaotic, even more tangled than the mistresses she had seen last time. His gaze concealed a mix of anticipation and nervousness, clearly indicating he was either about to stir up trouble or had already done so. Without hesitation, Jiang Qianxia turned around and, before Jing Xiaoyuan noticed her, made a call to Situyu. Upon learning that he was in the lounge because Situ Xiaoya had fallen asleep, she grabbed a waiter to lead her to the lounge. Right at the lounge door, she happened to run into Zhao Choutong, who was coming out of another lounge. Jiang Qianxia hurriedly told Zhao Choutong what she had seen. Sure enough, upon hearing that Jing Xiaoyuan had come to the banquet and even went to the kitchen, Zhao Choutong's expression changed drastically. She thanked Jiang Qianxia and rushed off to check the surveillance footage. Jiang Qianxia originally planned to follow and check the surveillance footage, but unexpectedly, the door behind her was suddenly pulled open. She turned around, thinking it was Situyu who had heard her voice. Actually, Situyu sensed her inner voice and was about to speak, but then saw Jiang Qianxia's expression suddenly change. It was as if she had seen something flash by and chased into the lounge. Situyu's expression tightened, and he quickly followed her in, only to discover the originally sleeping Situ Xiaoya had unexpectedly woken up, his beautiful eyes wide open, and in a soft, childish voice said, "Daddy, Mommy, I want candy." Situyu's steps paused for a moment, staring intently at the adorable little cub. The little one looked blankly at the stunned adult, tilted its head, and repeated in a soft, childish voice, "Daddy, Mommy, I want candy." A trace of concern flashed in Situyu's eyes, and he was about to step forward when Jiang Qianxia stopped him. He looked up, his gaze sharp as he stared at her. She smiled without reaching her eyes, lightly parting her red lips. "Weren't you about to discuss something? Let me handle it. Give this stepmother a chance to please her stepson." The little rascal immediately showed a satisfied smile. Seeing that Situyu was still uneasy, Jiang Qianxia smiled faintly, secretly feeling smug, and blinked at him repeatedly. "Go ahead and take care of your business. Let me properly please this little wild brat who came out of nowhere and dared to impersonate Xiaoyi. Let me see, should I use the newly learned 18 ghost control techniques, or the 10 directions ghost slayer?" A trace of killing intent flashed in Jiang Qianxia's eyes. Situyu, so that's how it is. These past few days, he did hear that Jiang Qianxia seemed to be studying Taoist techniques, but he didn't expect she could already catch ghosts. Watching her gracefully lead the little one away, Situyu felt a pang in his heart, still somewhat uneasy, but he couldn't be of much help, so he made a phone call first before following in the direction they had left. He didn't dare to follow too closely. After all, he couldn't see that thing at all, and being too close might actually hinder them. Jiang Qianxia was naturally unaware that Situyu was behind her. She glanced down at the little wild ghost holding her finger and sneered inwardly. Although she had a way to exorcise ghosts, she didn't dare to directly dispel the thing on the little one, fearing side effects, so she decided to consult a professional first. She took out her phone and sent a message to Xianqing, but Xianqing seemed not to have seen it and didn't reply for a long time. She then sent another message to Baifu. At that moment, a soft sound came from the corner. The next second, Jiang Qianxia felt a tightness in her palm as the little one clutched her finger, clinging tightly to her skirt and hiding behind her. A tall, defiant figure appeared from the corner, supporting himself with one hand on the railing outside the greenery and flipping over. White hair, gray-blue eyes, a melancholic mixed-race face. It was Baifu. "Yo, sorry, excuse me, did I scare you?" Baifu acted as if he didn't recognize Jiang Qianxia, took out his phone, and typed a line. "There are side effects. Unless it comes out on its own, it might harm the child's soul." Jiang Qianxia glanced at the phone and immediately understood. She pretended to be frightened, took 2 steps back, and looked at Baifu suspiciously. "Who are you? Get away, or I'll call security." Baifu quickly raised his hands. "Miss, don't be afraid. I'm here to investigate something. Are you hosting a banquet here? I want to ask if anything strange has happened." Jiang Qianxia clearly felt the little thing behind her gripping her even tighter. Her hand was already hurting from the grip, which was far stronger than what a child could manage, but her expression remained unchanged. She sneered coldly and said to Baifu, "Humph, with that outfit, are you trying to sneak into the banquet to climb the social ladder?" Baifu hadn't expected her acting to be so convincing. He was momentarily stunned and was about to respond when he was suddenly interrupted by the little thing behind Jiang Qianxia. "Mom," he called out softly, a hint of understanding flashing in his eyes, and continued in a childish tone, "No more candy, let's find Dad." Baifu's expression changed instantly, his eyes widening in shock. "Mom, this is your son." Jiang Qianxia's heart tightened, understanding his shock. After all, her identity in the entertainment industry was well known, but she had never publicly disclosed her her marriage. Now is not the time for explanations. She glanced suggestively at Bai Yifu and said coldly, leave quickly, or I'll call security. Bai Yifu covered his lips with his fist, his expression peculiar, and lightly coughed. Alright, I apologize, madam. I won't go in, but I do have something to say. If anything strange happens inside, please make sure to let me know. As he spoke, he opened a QR code and handed it to Jiang Qianxia. This is my WeChat. How about adding me on WeChat? You can contact me if you encounter anything unusual. Bai Yifu deliberately emphasized the words WeChat, anything unusual, and contact. Jiang Qianxia gave him a knowing look, frowned, and waved her hand. Alright, go back to where you came from. This is not a place for you. After saying that, Jiang Qianxia took the little one by the hand and walked back. She looked down at the little one hopping along as they walked, a trace of disgust flashing through her heart. Damn, it's the same cute little body of Xiaoyi, but why does it feel so annoying with a different soul? The whole vibe is just that of an unbearable brat. As she was thinking, a tall and handsome man suddenly appeared in a corridor ahead. He leaned there, seemingly waiting for something. Noticing their figures, the man first showed a hint of joy, then his gaze paused on the lively little one. Then, he turned his head and looked over at Jiang Qianxia. Meeting her gaze, he immediately returned to normal, flashing a warm smile. This look made Jiang Qianxia feel relieved. Dealing with smart people is just so comfortable. From afar came a woman's praise, and Sitayu's smile became even more genuine. However, no one expected that the little rascal holding Jiang Qianxia's hand would suddenly let go, turn back, with a sly grin, and dash towards Sitayu at full speed, shouting in his childish voice, Daddy. Stepmom just exchanged WeChat with a white-haired uncle. They said they'd stay in touch. The little rascal tattled while raising both hands high, signaling for Sitayu to pick him up. Sitayu's gaze darkened, anger flashing across his face as he asked coldly, what's going on? The little rascal felt regretful, originally intending to seize the opportunity to find a ride, but ended up being careless. On the surface, it still pretended to be adorable, tilting its head and saying, I saw it. Just now, a white-haired uncle climbed over the wall to come in, just to talk to the stepmother. Sitayu frowned, is that so? The little rascal's eyes darted around, sensing the powerful pressure emanating from this dad, and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. It nodded firmly and said, that's right, Dad. Let's have the security guards catch that white-haired uncle. He must be a bad guy. Sitayu reached out to hold him, gently stroking the little rascal's head with his other hand. In a place where the little rascal couldn't see, his eyes revealed a murderous intent. You're right. Then, Sitayu took out his phone in front of Jiang Qianxia and made a call to Chen Junming. As soon as the call connected, Chen Junming immediately fawned. Boss, what are your orders? Sitayu lowered his head, his gaze as sharp as a blade. A white-haired man has infiltrated the banquet. Order the bodyguards to restrain him. He must not be allowed to disrupt the event. Chen Junming froze for a moment. Are you referring to? Enough. Just answer whether you can carry out my order. If not, I'll find someone else. Chen Junming's entire body tensed. He instinctively stood at attention and responded loudly, I can. Then you have 3 minutes to get him under control. Beep beep beep. The call was hung up, and Chen Junming, who was enjoying skewers with his girlfriend, was instantly dumbfounded. His girlfriend thoughtfully said, I understand. Your boss, who has both money and a lot of demands, has issued another order. I'll take care of the barbecue. You go ahead. As she spoke, his girlfriend got up and pushed him to leave. Just kidding. This was the golden ticket to their future happy life. If Chen Junming worked for another 2 years, their wedding house and car would be sorted. Plus, he's currently the assistant to the president, and if he gets promoted further, he'd become one of Sitayu's trusted aides. Although he felt a mix of comfort and heartache, this time he was truly stunned. He held his girlfriend's hand, but I have no idea what the boss is talking about. His girlfriend was also stunned. Chen Junming recounted the phone conversation. The two of them pondered together. This. At someone else's banquet, actually having an assistant from over 100 miles away arrange bodyguards. His girlfriend blinked. Could it be that your boss is drunk? Chen Junming's expression immediately turned serious. He thought for a moment and dialed Jiang Qianxia's number. Jiang Qianxia sighed. After finishing the call, Sitayu coldly instructed her to calm down outside and suggested she personally watch the bodyguards capture that wild man. Then, he took the little rascal and left. Before leaving, the little rascal deliberately made a face at her. Jiang Qianxia stood frozen in place, understanding Sitayu's intentions and realizing she had a way to handle it. So, she decided to help stall the little rascal for now. However, she felt uneasy, as Sitayu was just an ordinary person after all. At this moment, Chen Junming's call came through. As soon as the call connected, Chen Junming cautiously greeted her and vaguely inquired about Sitayu's situation. Suddenly, Jiang Qianxia understood what Sitayu's earlier call was about. She thought for a moment and told Chen Junming, he's fine for now, but the situation is special, and in a while, he might not be fine, so call him again in 2 minutes and tell him the white-haired man has escaped into the banquet hall, and the bodyguards can only capture him discreetly. In short, you call him to report every few minutes. Chen Junming's heart tightened. Madam, should I arrange for bodyguards to come over now, or notify the police station? Jiang Qianxia, no need, just make the phone call. Really? Then should we contact the Situ family? Chen Junming was still a bit uneasy. If something happened to the boss, even his wedding would have to be postponed. Jiang Qianxia hadn't expected that this workaholic, Sitayu, could actually win people's hearts. Seeing how worried his subordinate was, she suppressed her bitterness and said, don't worry, this isn't something a bodyguard can handle. I have someone on my side who can take care of it. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Qianxia walked toward the place where she had just met Bai Yifu. Sure enough, Bai Yifu was still leaning against the bushes. Noticing that Jiang Qianxia had returned alone, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. That little rascal, where did he go? Jiang Qianxia thought of Sitayu, a trace of worry flashing in her eyes. A clever ordinary person noticed the child's abnormality, knew I could handle it, and then led the little rascal away. That clever person is your husband? Bai Yifu asked curiously. Jiang Qianxia was stunned, her ears slightly heating up. She vaguely nodded before quickly returning to the main topic. You said that unless it comes out voluntarily, the child's soul will be harmed. How can we make it come out voluntarily? Her expression appeared somewhat anxious. Bai Yifu was stunned. When he first met Jiang Jiang Qianxia, he felt she was different from others. Her eyes were like clear lakes, seemingly incapable of being stirred. Even when she showed shock, fear, or sadness, he still felt it was merely superficial. A trace of curiosity arose in his heart. What kind of person would the soon-to-be-born genius of the Xian sect turn out to be? So this is what truly makes her anxious. Bai Yifu suddenly laughed, a trace of regret flashing in his eyes, and said casually, so it really is your child. I thought you had seen through the little rascal's true nature and were just pretending. At this point, he quickly changed the subject and began to seriously discuss the matter of the little rascal. It turned out to be another scheme by that demonic cultivator. After being provoked by the demonic cultivator, he and Wenji, the two sect leaders, issued a wanted notice and indeed found traces of the demonic cultivator. Sensing the unfavorable situation, the demonic cultivator deliberately released a few little ghosts to divert their attention and evade capture. The distinction between good and evil lies in the fact that demonic cultivators specifically harm others, while the righteous path not only refrains from harming people but also protects ordinary individuals. Moreover, these little ghosts were released precisely because of their pursuit. Therefore, even though Bai Yifu and Wenji knew it was the other party's strategy, they still had to split up to capture the little ghost. Unexpectedly, one of the little ghosts Bai Yifu was chasing ran into the banquet and encountered Jiang Qianxia. A trace of relief flashed in Bai Yifu's eyes. This is no ordinary little ghost, so it can't be driven away by ordinary means. Fortunately, you didn't act directly. Jiang Qianxia felt a sense of relief, glad she had asked Bai Yifu in advance. This little ghost was so unlike a human, with its cheeky demeanor. If she hadn't asked, she might have impulsively killed it when it started causing trouble. Then how should we drive it away? Jiang Qianxia frowned slightly, her expression serious. Bai Yifu sighed heavily, his tone grave. This matter requires careful planning. We need to make it come out on its own. Seeing her serious expression, Bai Yifu continued to explain. These little ghosts are low-level puppet spirits refined by evil cultivators. Now they've been released as bait. To put it bluntly, they're sacrificial pawns. Under the control of the evil cultivators, they've committed many misdeeds. Once caught, they'll face violent exorcism. Jiang Qianxia pondered for a moment, her brows furrowing even tighter. So, making it come out on its own is very difficult? Bai Yifu nodded and said earnestly, yes. Although these little ghosts are controlled by evil cultivators to commit crimes, their strength has also been significantly enhanced with the help of the cultivators. They usually don't want to be exorcised and will try every means to escape. If it senses that we dare not harm that child, it will absolutely refuse to come out. Jiang Qianxia was silent for a moment, a trace of worry flashing in her eyes. Then, does that mean we can't expose it for now? Bai Yifu nodded again. Her face grew even darker, and her gaze dimmed. But it's been inside Xiao Ye's body for too long. It will definitely harm his body, won't it? Hearing the gritted tone in her voice, Bai Yifu couldn't help but feel that the little ghost's fate would be miserable. Seeing that Jiang Qianxia was truly angry, he quickly comforted her. Within 3 days, it shouldn't be a big problem. By then, we might need to contact Xingxian sect to borrow their soul calming bell. Jiang Qianxia's gaze grew increasingly dangerous. So, we only have 3 days. Specifically, how can we make it leave voluntarily? Is it by making it feel threatened, or by making it feel safe? Bai Yifu couldn't help but look at her with an appreciative expression. You're very smart. This little ghost has a strong survival instinct. When it senses danger, it will do everything it can to protect itself, escape, or refuse to come out. If it feels safe but gets bored, it might leave and look for a new host. He paused and looked at Jiang Qianxia with an apologetic expression. That's why I can't show myself. I've been chasing it for so long that if I appear, it will know it has no way out and might stubbornly stay inside the child. Jiang Qianxia pondered. You said it's a low-level puppet ghost. Does that mean its rank is even lower than the 2 little ghosts from before? Bai Yifu looked at her in surprise, then burst into laughter. He nodded while explaining. Vengeful spirits are hard to find. The strength of a ghost fiend lies in the murderous intent and the blood energy condensed into fiendish aura. Look at this little ghost. It still retains some intelligence, yet it's so cowardly. What kind of murderous intent could it possibly have? Jiang Qianxia suddenly understood. So it doesn't even count as a vengeful spirit? Just an ordinary little ghost? Bai Yifu nodded, his eyes shining as he looked at her and asked with interest. Do you have an idea? Although he already had a solution, if Jiang Qianxia could resolve it herself, it would also serve as a form of training for her, a step into the world of mysticism. As a pillar of the mystical sect, he was happy to see newcomers grow. Jiang Qianxia couldn't understand why Bai Yifu's eyes carried a hint of encouragement, but she still hesitated and asked, do you know how to disguise as an evil cultivator? Huh? Bai Yifu was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help but burst into laughter, giving her a thumbs up. Brilliant. After the praise, he became serious again. However, you need to disguise yourself a bit more convincingly. Jiang Qianxia cleared her throat lightly, feeling a little embarrassed as she looked at Bai Yifu. I heard your Disha sect has many ghost servants. Could you lend me a couple of fierce ghost level ones? Bai Yifu didn't expect Jiang Qianxia to make such a bold request, but he shook his head and said, do you know how dangerous it is to borrow 2 fierce ghosts? Jiang Qianxia remained silent, starting to ponder whether she could borrow fierce ghosts if she joined the Disha sect. She simply couldn't tolerate that mischievous little ghost staying inside the adorable Xiaoye's body. She really wanted to give it a good beating. At that moment, Bai Yifu raised an eyebrow and said, borrowing ghost servants at the fierce ghost level is indeed dangerous, but you actually don't need to borrow them. Jiang